out there on the internet. And by the way, we are live.
Well, we are back. I wonder, will anybody watch tonight's show?
Is there anybody out there or in there, or whatever the song says? So we got a whole list of stuff to talk about tonight.
Yeah, this potentially could be a like we were just saying, a marathon show again. And I don't even have any chips or anything to eat to make my lovely bride mad at me tonight.
Well, fair warning, if we try to do a marathon show tonight, I will be hitting the 5 minute or what? No, I have a 10-minute intermission deal set up video. And we do a marathon show, we're taking an intermission.
Well, why on earth would you think that we would have to have a marathon show tonight? What could cause us to have to do a however many hour show? What potentially could we talk about for that long?
Since we're so politically well, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about, but I can just tell you, if I get through this entire glass of tea, me and my pecan tree over there in the yard are going to be having a little quick meeting.
Okay, I get it. So you're going to be lubricating some bark, is what you're telling me.
I will be watering the tree. Anyway, so, okay. All right. We got about, 30 people already, and we're not even a minute and a half in there. So, folks, for those of you that are new, we appreciate everybody watching. We're going to sit here and kind of banter back and forth for a minute or so, and then we will, just so you know how this works, we will do our 2.5 or 3 minute countdown. That lets everybody go grab something to drink. Share the show out on your Facebook timeline or tag friends. And also, make you some popcorn or whatever. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about. We can kind of see the list there. We're going to talk about the Jimmy Davis Bridge in South Bossier, and Doug Warner from KSLA and the Caddo DA's office. And we got a guest coming on. And, what else we got to talk about?
Man, that Bossier Parish School Board and the military kids, man. There's some stuff cooking down there in South Bossier.
It's all out there on social media. They're anti-military. They don't like military kids. I heard that they were going to round up the military kids and make them wear striped uniforms or something. It's just going crazy.
Man, I'll tell you on Facebook, there was some crap going on out there about all that. And we're going to get to the bottom of that tonight.
Yeah, we're going to share, I've titled the show, The Rest of the Story. We've got a TikTok video that we're going to show, and I honestly don't watch TikTok that much, but we're going to show a TikTok video, do the rest of the story. Oh, and Cypress Bridge update.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? For some reason, there's something going on with some church. Did you hear something about some church?
What's that church over there that's got the great big soccer field, and they had a big bonfire over there, and I guess maybe they roasted hot dogs and stuff once upon a time.
Wait a minute. I thought them was football fields.
Well, they might be for political rallies.
Might have been for political rallies.
Might have been. Well, I heard through the grapevine that you were playing court reporter today.
It was a different role for me, and I'll tell you, I almost went through a legal notebook, and I was writing as fast as I could. I felt like I was back taking a test in high school. I mean, I was just a writing, and I probably made some mistakes, but we'll hear about that later, I'm sure.
We'll see. And our good friend Wade Lovelace just commented in, says there's big news in Shreveport, so maybe we'll have some more information on that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do our countdown and get that over with so we can get the show shared out, if I can talk tonight. Folks, we encourage you while we're doing this countdown, in case you're new, it'll be about 2.5, 3 minutes or whatever. Again, make sure you got you something to drink. Make sure you got you some popcorn, and share this live feed out on Facebook, or if you're watching on YouTube, get some folks, text them, tell them, hey, go check this out, because we have a ton of information to provide tonight. All right, countdown, and we will be back shortly, folks. Here we go. brought to you by Eagle Truck Center, soaring to new heights. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. Well, we do have some interesting information coming out of that countdown, and folks, we appreciate everybody joining in and watching the show tonight. Let me figure out which screen I want to do. Let me move this out of the way, and then and then let's show Wade's comment here, which is going to be really large. Wade Lovelace is in the comments, and he's got the Love Shreveport Bossier Facebook page and all that. He says, story loading, Caddo commissioners advance legislation to make carrying a loaded gun in your vehicle with a magazine of more than 20 rounds illegal. Apparently those morons over there in Caddo don't understand the way the law actually works, especially in Louisiana. So I will be making a phone call as soon as we are off the show to see what's going on over there. Thanks for prompting us or letting us know on that, Wade.
Yeah, it sounds like, that old saying of elections have consequences, and it sounds like some elections are apparently having some consequences over there. I mean, what in the world is somebody thinking over there?
Trust me, we're going to find out and find out the inside scoop on it. Let's just put it that way. Chris K says, Wade Lovelace, that would be found unconstitutional in the state's Second Amendment preemption law. Most likely will be passed and go the way of other gun laws they have tried to pass. So they're going to do it just to feel good, and then it's going to get knocked down.
Well, there's a lot of feel-good stuff going on. Hey, has anybody been watching what's going on in D.C.?
I hadn't really paid a whole lot of attention to D.C. I mean, it's funny because a couple of years ago, before we started doing Bossier Watch, I paid more attention to national stuff. And now, since we've been doing Bossier Watch, I'm paying attention to all this local and regional stuff, and I halfway pay attention to the national. What's going on?
Well, unsurprisingly, there's some things happening in D.C., and I got to tell you, it kind of, what I see happening maybe in Caddo is maybe some of the things that are happening in D.C. You've got the Sussman trial. Everybody's heard of John Durham, and he's prosecuting Sussman for lying to the FBI, supposedly. Well, today there were some really amazing things. Y'all all know, everybody knows that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians, right? Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a big deal.
So this Michael Sussman guy, right, he was the attorney for Hillary of America, and he decided, he was just worried about these Russians and all, and so he shows up to the FBI to give some information, and the FBI guy, who was the first person to take the stand, says today, he says, you know what? He says, in about 2 days, we realized that it was all bullcrap. None of it was legit.
Really? Imagine that.
Right. And he goes a little bit further. And if you'll show cut 2, we'll be done with this real quick.
All right, there we go. It is on the screen. So this is a tweet from Sarah N. Lynch for those that are just listening. You want to read it, or you want me to go through it?
No, and tell you who this lady was she's kind of like a court reporter. She was sitting there during the whole trial today, taking notes, and the same thing I was doing with the First Church thing, ironically, today. I mean, I guess it was a court kind of day. And the FBI guy, here's what he said. Read that.
It says, some laughs here in the media room as Hellman translates some FBI inside baseball comment he made in an old chat where he said the white papers felt 5150-ish. Translation, quote, I thought the person who had drafted this document was suffering from some mental disability, unquote.
Can you imagine? Now, the FBI is thinking that whoever brought this crap to them, they're thinking they've got some kind of mental disability. That's how laughable it was. So
Really?
now, how is it? This begs the question: how is it that then the Peter Stroke and Lisa Page and all those folks end up spending the next and Andy McCabe and Comey and all them people? How is it that all this went after Trump and this Russia collusion thing for years on after this, when the tech guys all found it all to be false? How does that happen?
Well, it's kind of like anything in Washington or D.C. Once a program gets started, you pretty much can't kill it. I mean, it's like it's there forever.
Yeah, and
Same type of deal.
well, in the comments, I shared a link for folks and from my personal page. And if you find occasion, you might want to go follow that link and read that article. And you don't have to be Republican, you don't have to be Democrat. But here's the thing, and DC, how can we have good government when you have one-sided government up there? And this article kind of breaks down the process in DC. It's one-sided, and I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to contend that we probably need to not have any court cases in DC with the exception of the Supreme Court. We need to bust that whole thing up. If anybody in government is accused of doing something corrupt, they ought not be having a court case heard in DC with people who they are cohorts of.
That sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, I've said it on another show, I think.
Well, we'll get to some of that here in a few minutes. All right, so yeah, so folks, y'all check out the comments. Duke just put a comment up to that article, and we would encourage you after the show to click on that article and go check it out. All right, what's next on our agenda here? We're going to talk
Well,
about the Sobo lunch.
apparently, yeah, there was a Sobo lunch, and apparently at the Sobo lunch, there were some follow-up things. You remember we had a little bit of a competition on who was taking credit for getting the state to take Jimmy Davis Bridge. You remember that?
Well, yeah, and I also remember that it's pretty much our contention, at least my contention. I think you agree with me on it that the real kudos goes to Tommy Chandler. He's the
Now,
one that got this done.
well, yeah, I know we reported that, but you remember that police jury meeting where Lisa Johnson stood up there and said she just got off the phone with the lieutenant governor.
Oh yeah, like she said right before the meeting, like within minutes of the meeting, or however
That
she phrased it.
that's right. Well, apparently the lieutenant governor came to Northwest Louisiana and there was a meeting of principals on the
Mm-hmm.
thing. And apparently he had some comments on, the proposed linear bridge thing, and they conflicted with a little bit of what was being reported at the police jury meeting and such. And I think one of the police jury members were given a report at the South Bossier luncheon.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, Lisa Johnson, I don't know if she took exception to it or whatever, but she got up and spoke and basically doubled down on everything she said at the police jury meeting and didn't back away from any of it.
And
Doubled
don't
down on it.
don't forget, she commented on our show. What was it? A couple of shows ago. To the same effect, because we talked about the bridge issue after that police jury meeting. So she's sticking to her story then, correct?
Yeah. And I got to tell you, I mean, sources tell me that here's the thing: there's no way that the lieutenant governor could have ever took the linear park on the state anyway, because
Well, wouldn't he
it
have to have some funding?
well, yeah, there's that, but apparently state law prohibits the lieutenant governor from having a linear park.
Wait, there's a statute that
There's there's
specifically prohibits a linear
I
park and
I
from the.
don't it's kind of like it's breaking news. See here, you come to Bossier
Hmm,
Watch and you get breaking news. I'm told I don't have it.
mm-hmm.
I don't have it in front of me looking at it, but I'm told that there is a state law that prohibits the lieutenant governor from being able to have quote a linear park.
We're gonna have to look up that statute. And by the way, our good friend Ryan Haygood, now I got to make the comments bigger, says Lisa Johnson for mayor. So Future Mayor Jeremy Gallman, if you're watching, looks like you may have some competition for mayor.
But Ryan Haygood, only, and Rex, you'll agree, only if we have bungee jumping off the bridge. Remember?
That's right. I'm not in support of that bridge unless we have bungee jumping, and I will jump. There is no doubt about it.
And Lisa Johnson committed to bungee jumping off the bridge. She did.
Yes, she did. So, Mr. Gallman, I see that you are watching. So yeah, you're gonna have to step up the game. We've got bungee jumping going. We got to get something even better than bungee. Squirrel suits. That's what we need. Squirrel suits.
Yeah. Well, hey, what is all this business about Shreveport? I mean, I've kind of been under a rock a little bit and living over here in quote unquote God's country, as they would say, on this side of the river. But I understand there's like some serious problems over there on that side of the river.
Well, it
And
seems like
don't we have a guest for that?
well, we do, and it seems like there's always problems over there, and so we're getting ready to bring our guest in just to give her a fair warning. But there was a situation with Doug Warner from Channel 12 News, KSLA News, and he's a pretty prolific poster on Facebook. And actually, I follow him a lot because he posts some interesting stuff, news stories, and just all kinds of different things. And reading his feed is actually pretty interesting. Well, on May the 7th, let me get this article here queued up, but on May the 7th, Doug did a report on KSLA's website and a video, I assume, newscast about 22-year-old Elijah Williams and 20-year-old Thomas Office, and they were accused in connection with the shooting death of 28-year-old Jared, is it Peltier, I guess? Anyway, so it turned into this crazy thing. So let me bring up this post real quick. Let's see here. Let me go here over to screens. Okay, and I've got Miss Tiffany in. So Tiffany, you are live on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and roll this video, and it's about 5 minutes long, so I may not play the whole thing, but we'll at least kind of get the gist of it. So this is Doug Warner's original post on, I think it was May the 7th. All right, here we go.
If you're looking for a domain name, there's a
Except for
secret
the
the
ads.
experts know. Network Solutions. Now for a limited time, register a domain name
Well, I wonder if we'll get any sponsorship out of Network Solutions for
Did
plugging.
Yeah,
anybody
all
from
right,
the DA's
here we go.
office call you
Wow,
to say
that's
the
loud.
kidnapping charge was dropped?
No,
Or the assault with the vehicle, basically?
no.
How does that make you feel?
A little upset at the justice system.
Well, tonight, an update to a KSLA News 12 investigation. A Bossier City woman says she's left confused why a man charged with kidnapping her and dragging her down the street in a car a year ago had those charges dropped and was still out on the streets and now stands accused of taking part in a murder this past weekend in Shreveport. 28-year-old Jared Pelletier died at the hospital days after being shot in the head on Prospect Street, just blocks from Centenary College. Thanks for joining us here at 10. I'm Doug Warner. The two people right here accused of his murder, 20-year-old Thomas Office and 22-year-old Elijah Williams. Tonight I want to focus on Williams. Today we asked the DA's office why Williams was still on the streets, even though he had an active bench warrant for his arrest from January and was arrested on a separate incident just weeks ago. Their answer, and in part a lack of a complete answer, is just part of what leaves many, from law enforcement to your neighbors, feeling like the justice system is a revolving door.
All right, so I'm going to pause that right there. And sorry for the loud ad there at the very beginning, folks. And I'm going to switch our screens back over. And let me get over here and do another little technical wizardry here. Because here's the thing. It's like Doug Warner, again, he's from KSLA, got into a argument on social media with the Caddo DA's office. And I'm going to show you the post that they put up there. And let's see, we're getting some echo and feedback. All right, so I just muted you, Tiffany. You may have to come in through your phone. All right, so let me switch screens back over. And I'm going to unmute you, Tiffany, and we'll see what it sounds like. Okay, that's better. Well, I'm getting a lot of feedback through there.
I don't even have my headphones in here.
Well, that's the problem, is it's coming through the computer speakers, and it's getting feedback through there. Have you got your phone with you?
Yeah, let me
All
get
right.
on there.
Okay, cool. All right, so back to this. So that was May the 7th that Doug and KSLA did that story and article. And I want you to take a look at this. Let me make the screen larger so we can see it. This is the Caddo Parish DA's office Facebook page, May the 9th, so 2 days later. And they share out information about Elijah Williams. And they say that he was sentenced on a felony plea to 2 years of hard labor and committed to the Louisiana Department of Corrections, suspended and placed on supervised probation for a period of 2 years, $100 fine and court costs, with special conditions, $65 a month probation fee, and $1,500 restitution to the victim. He was incarcerated at Caddo Correctional Center from April of 21 until January 22. But here's the catch. They go down here and they actually cite Doug Warner's post where Doug says that Williams was told to pay $100 and his sentence suspended. Well, that's true. I mean, the DA's office literally just confirmed it. All right. And so then they got their cute little graphic here, and they even quote Doug Warner in the graphic. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. So Doug comes in and starts commenting. And they have a little back and forth together with the DA's office, but the DA actually deleted comments from other people and then locked the whole post down, which is a no-no. Newsflash to the Caddo DA's office. As a public body, you cannot delete comments from people, from any tax-paying citizen, whether they're from Caddo or not, unless it is obviously a troll or something to that effect. But even if it's a halfway legitimate comment and you don't agree with it, Caddo DA's office, you can't legally remove that post. It's treated just like a public forum. And you can see that the Caddo DA's office, they're going back and forth here. And Doug's, saying, hey, look, I did a news article, and in that video, he actually talked to the girl who was owed the money. So anyway, they go back and forth. But you can see down here at the bottom, Caddo Parish District Attorney limited who can comment on this post. So what do you think of that so far, Mr. Lowry?
Well, I'm just wondering what would motivate the DA's office to want to start hiding posts and having this dialogue on Facebook. Why would they do that? I mean, I think it was a mistake for them to even do it. I understand trying to inform the public, and they should, but you're gonna have an argument with a reporter on your Facebook page?
Well, and not just that, cutting off everybody's comments is a huge no-no. I mean, again, if nobody's getting on there and just being completely out of line, just throwing out expletives for no reason, then the DA's office can't do that. I mean, obviously, somebody, a citizen or attorney, would have to sue them. And the chances of somebody doing that are probably slim. But let me show you the next post here, so bear with me just a second to get this one pulled up.
So basically, this guy, this guy or girls or whatever, or two guys, I'm not sure on the story, but so this woman from Bossier City, they attack her, or she got attacked, drugged by a car down the street, and the charges were $1,500 to the victim, $100 something restitution, and $65 per month. That seems kind of light, right?
Yeah, and because he dragged her down the street. I mean, I remember seeing the news article about that. Honestly, I didn't pay that close of attention to it because, we got our own stuff going on over here, and that's an everyday occurrence, it seems like, in Shreveport and Caddo Parish. But let me show you this. So this is May the 9th, same day. So Doug puts up a post calling out the Caddo DA's office. And, he's reporting, again, on his official page, that they made the post and comments and that the past victim, the girl with the phone issue that was dragged down the street, was confused over why this guy's back on the street, and that the DA's office began deleting and then banned public comments on that post. The comments are still turned off, and he links to the same thing that we looked at and his original story, as well as some other things. Anyway, so it's just a back and forth. You know, it seems like this is, I don't know, the whole crime thing in Shreveport is just completely out of control.
So, one of the commenters in our comment says, probably because I was one of the comments about calling them out about putting habitual repeat offenders on the street, and my brother Jared's life could have been spared. The Caddo DA are idiots. So, you
Yeah.
know, I think this is a case of where we're making light of violence and, giving people, sentences or not making them complete sentences. And you have violent criminals who are getting out on the street. And then once you take that role to not incarcerate these people and they have their recidivism, um, then you want to try to hide it. Is that what we're talking about here?
It sounds like it to me, and yeah, and I want to make sure everybody's aware, and especially to Miss Brown, that we're not making light of the situation with apparently it was her brother. We're not trying to make a light of any of those situations over there. When somebody gets killed or injured or whatever, but we got to call this kind of stuff out, and these shenanigans at the DA's office in Caddo Parish, as well as Bossier or anywhere else, pull. Holly Cole says the Caddo DA feels the same about Doug Warner, King David, and as King David and the city attorneys do about John Settle. Well, apparently so. Grady Davis says until DAs and judges are held accountable for the people they reduce sentences for, it will never change. And one more comment, Paul Johnson says this is the game that these Soros puppets play in these DA offices where they try to hide their insane policies. This case is what CRT equality or equity justice looks like. And speaking of the Soros deal, so it's well known that George Soros, or one of his PACs or financial setups, did fund the current Caddo DA's race.
Yeah, but we just can't. I don't think you can just say that this is just a Caddo thing, because as I understand it, there is a very good working relationship with the Bossier Parish DA's office and the Caddo DA's office. I recall not long ago of swapping cases between the DA's offices, and I would say that there was less accountability than I would have thought there should have been for a vehicle accident for a non-DA office employee in a DA office vehicle in Bossier. Do you remember that?
Yes. Let's see. Who's that attorney? Oh, yeah, Lynn Lawrence.
Sure do. But then I also remember in Caddo Parish, there was a case with someone over there in the DA's office, and I think about whether they were intoxicated or not, and what determines whether you're intoxicated or not, because they were on medicines.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you remember that one?
Well, yeah. It just goes to prove it's kind of the good old boy network we have over here, and it really reaches across the river. It's like a disease. So,
Well, I say that, and when I started this show and I started talking about Washington D.C. and I started talking about the Sussman case, and that was specifically the point I was trying to make and draw the comparison contrast, because if we can't even have accountability among people in our federal government, people in the FBI, people in those circles, amongst a jury of their peers and or judges, and if you look at the link that I shared, the connections between all of these people, if I do wrong, how should I be able to sit in judgment of myself? How am I supposed to do that? Because that's basically what you're doing. And in this case right here, I shouldn't be able to pick my friends or who's going to decide whether I'm guilty or whether I'm not. That
Right.
shouldn't be the way it is. And that's what we have here.
Well, yeah, we could spend I don't know how many hours on the way the judicial system works, and many times, unfortunately, doesn't work as well as it should. There's no doubt about that. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. All right, so Tiffany, let me see if I can get you in here. Let's see. Let's hit that button, and let me assign you over to slot number 2. Okay, can you hear us?
Yes, how are you?
Oh, and the audio is much better now.
Much better.
Yay.
Okay, so of course, some of you may remember that we had Tiffany Hyde on Show 75, which was back, I think it was December the 16th of 2021, so several months ago. And we were talking about the Woodlawn Terrace apartments and rental properties and stuff going on in Caddo. So glad to have you back.
Glad to be back. Thanks, guys.
Now, you got a little connection to this story with Elijah Williams. So, and you wanted to come on and kind of share that story. So I'll just turn it over to you, and why don't you just tell us what your connection is?
Well, on 4/12, so April 12th, I was driving down Uri Drive and Southfield right there in front of the Circle K.
Mhm.
And I noticed in front of me there was a car, and they were trying to go around another car, and there was a car right beside them. There was nowhere for this person to go, like nowhere. They were blocked in, and they just crushed into the back of the car in front of them. And I'm sitting there just watching this unfold, and I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm fixing to pull in and, witness this accident, give my little statement, whatever. This guy just, as soon as the light turns green, he just guns it.
Whoa.
And I am like, I watched the person pull into Circle K, and I'm like, we're going after this guy. So he guns it, and I take off. I call 911. I'm like, there's a guy, there's a hit and run. I'm sitting there reading off the license plate, giving a car description, follow him through the neighborhood, and he comes back out on Uri Drive, goes down Uri Drive, takes a right on Preston. So I noticed then we're getting close to a school zone, so I start sounding my horn. And I'm just blowing the horn because I'm like, these kids and stuff, you can see their moms and, parents stuff starting to walk them to the school. So I'm like honking my horn like crazy because this guy is not slowing down. And I saw this one lady and her son just like threw their bikes and just ran. And about that time, he just hits the curb on the corner of Preston and whatever that other street is right there by AC Steer. He hits that curb, ramps, and just nosedives into a yard. Totals the car out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe I just sat here and watched this. Gets out of the car, takes off running, jumps a fence. He's wearing a black tracksuit, jumps a fence, and I'm like, what just happened? What the heck just happened?
And so you're still on the phone with 911 the whole time, right?
Yeah. So I'm still on the phone with 911. I'm telling them everything that's happened. This poor little lady comes out of her house, and the horn is going off in this car. So we try to talk to this lady and explain to her, she's a little elderly lady, what's going on. And bless her heart, she was blind and she didn't understand why the horn was going off, and we couldn't turn it off. And we were trying to explain to her what was going on. So I go to try to disconnect the horn. Well, the hood and everything is stuck to the car because it is completely crushed down the front. So a few minutes later, these two other guys pull around. They're like, are you looking for this guy? Are you looking for this guy? And I was like, yes. Where'd he go? And so they told me, they said, he's hiding in the bushes. He's hiding in the bushes. So I get in my car and I go to drive around, and that's where St. Joseph's School is. And so everybody's in car line over there.
Right.
So I trying to see, if I can see any trace of it, because he took a white bag with him when he jumped out of the car. So I'm looking around and I don't see anything. I don't see any movement. And so I'm like, well, I need to go back over so I can give the police report. You stay over here in this area. I'll stay over here in this area. And then I'll point the police over here and you point the police over there. I'll tell them you're over here. So we were kind of tag teaming it. So I go over to report the police. And about that time, I see a guy walking down the street right in front of AC Steer Park and right in front of AC Steer.
Now, let me interrupt you for a second. You're still in your vehicle at this point, or you're out
Yeah,
walking?
I'm in my
You're in your
vehicle.
vehicle.
No,
Okay.
I'm in my vehicle. So I'm like, that's the same hair, the same shoes, because he had red shoelaces. Because I was scanning this guy head to bottom. It's like, I mean, everything. The same red shoelaces, the same haircut. He had put on a set of glasses. He had changed shirts, same black pants. So I went over to the cops. I said, there he goes. He's taking off across the AC Steer parking lot. Well,
Wow.
about that time, they said, well, we got to put it in the, the new description, and we're going to head over there. And I think about that time is when he had walked up on Doug Warner, and Doug Warner had happened to have been doing an interview on something completely different right over there in the parking lot. And Doug Warner happened to catch the case on live news as he is arrested.
Right.
And
Yeah,
he
which
had,
is in that clip that I started showing earlier. So yeah, we'll come
yeah.
back to that. Yeah.
So when I stopped and talked to the police officers and gave them everything that had happened, they're like, thank you so much. He had a warrant out for his arrest, and, he needed to be behind bars. And so I was like, well, they're like, we need to try to get, community to help more. And I was like, anything I can do, And so got it all squared away, felt a little good about it. And then 2 weeks later, I'm watching the news, and pow, pops up, and I see Elijah Williams' face.
So at this point, during this car chase and all that, he's not at that time a murder suspect, correct?
Not at that time. He just has a warrant out.
And if I remember correctly, remember the story because I was trying to scan all the notes today. The warrant was for the same situation that Doug Warner was reporting on that we were showing, which is dragging this girl or girlfriend, whatever she was, down the street or whatever, and then it damaged her phone, and the judge was supposed to order him to pay the money. He didn't, and that's in contention with the DA's office and all that. So the warrant, if I remember correctly, was for that during your car chase, correct?
Yeah, he didn't show up to his court date on 4/4.
Okay.
And so they had a bench warrant out for him because he didn't come to his court date to finish everything. He never showed up, and so they had a warrant out for his arrest from that, for him not showing up for court. So this is like days, literally just days apart. The timeline's crazy.
Now, the accident where this happened, was this him fleeing the scene of when he drugged the girl?
No, this was him fleeing the scene just of a hit and run. Like, I don't know what the heck, I don't know in his brain. I do not know what he was thinking that day trying to squeeze through these cars, because there was no reason for him to even try to squeeze through these cars. I don't know what he was trying to get away from that day.
So he basically just rear-ended somebody and then did a hit and run then.
Yeah,
Okay.
he just creamed somebody and left.
Well, because one of the thoughts when you started telling the story was it could have been some kind of gang-related deal, and he went up there to bump somebody, and could have potentially been a shootout or something like that gone wrong, and he took off or something. So,
yeah, I have no idea. For the life of me, I could not understand why the heck that even happened. And I guess my adrenaline, probably, poor sense of judgment, everything else kind of snapped in all at the same time. But I just wasn't. When I realized, when the people pulled into the gas station, and I realized that those people, had just been hit, and I think they thought, oh, well, there's somebody's going to come and assist. They're just going to have a just normal wreck. And then I realized that this guy just took off. My instincts were just kind of like, you know what? I'm not today. Wrong girl. No.
well, and look, the fact of the matter is, a lot more people need to step up to the plate over in Shreveport, because usually with the shootings and all that go on, somebody sees or somebody knows something, and a lot of them are afraid to take any action. And look, I get it. There's obvious reasons why they don't want to be retaliated against. Why don't you describe real quickly, for the folks that are watching, your experience with calling 911? Kind of what was that like being on the phone with them? Is it like it is in the movies? I mean, how long did it take for the cops to locate you and get to the scene of where y'all were looking for him?
When I called 911, they were very helpful on on the line, and I told them, I was like, look, you know, if you try to pull me over, I'm just telling you right now, I'm going at a high rate of speed, and I'm probably, you know, not pulling a full stop at a stop sign. I'm probably not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm going for him. So I'm just letting you know, I'm giving you the full description. And she was trying to talk to me, and I was like, I just want this on recording. So everything that I'm saying, I just want it to be recorded right now. So you just take my notes.
And she froze. Okay.
Wise on her part to call in and you know, and have that recorded.
Right.
Very wise.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to have her on the phone too was so that she could share that experience with us. Now, let's
So
see. She's trying to come back in, but looks like her video froze for some reason.
yeah, so this event happened, and obviously they caught the cat, and I
Right.
guess she's going to tell that part of the story, right?
Well, maybe so. That's what I was going to see because I hadn't talked to her about this whole scenario before the show and see if she was there. But I want to go ahead and share a couple of comments, and we'll give her a minute or two maybe to come back in. But Cassie Rogers says, my boss was at this accident too. She stayed with the driver, had no idea this was him. Scary big time. Yeah, because obviously this guy's not in his right mind. She also said, if she's not mistaken, it was a young lady with a child that was rear-ended, and she had no idea who he was or why this happened to her. So it just sounded like it was, you know, an obvious accident mistake on his part that led to his arrest. All right, so there's Tiffany back. Let me see if I can get her back in real quick. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't know what
Okay.
happened. I was just talking.
Yeah, a little camera freeze. So, all right. So, walk us through the process of you told the cops, you know, here's the new description. They're getting all that keyed in and going to look for him. Were you there when they actually caught him and arrested him, or what happened after where you left off?
Yeah, I was standing over off Preston. They arrested him over off closer to AC Steer. So I didn't watch, you know, them stick him in the car and everything. I actually ended up picking up my daughter from school, taking her to a place she had to be, and then I returned back to the scene because I told the officers that there was a bag that we needed to try to locate because I didn't know if there was something maybe in that bag.
Yeah, some evidence or a gun or something. Who knows
Yeah,
what he may have
and
had.
so I came back to the scene after I dropped her off, and we went on a ground search trying to find that bag, but we never recovered it. It was ditched.
Wow. Well, that's you know, definitely worth you being on the show tonight to hear that story. When you sent the message, you know, a couple of days ago and wanted to share it, I was like, yeah, this should be pretty interesting. So, as we kind of wrap this up, and we're going to move on to some other topics, what would you recommend to the folks watching? Whether you're from Shreveport or Bossier, it's not like we don't have crime over here in Bossier too. We actually do as well. But, you know, what would be your message to the folks watching? You know, we always hear the see something, say something deal. You know, what do you recommend people do if they're in a situation like that? Should they have their phones recording? I mean, what do you think somebody should
I
do?
mean, honestly, I would say first and foremost, you know, follow your gut instinct. If you feel as though you can go about this in a way like I did, like my gut instinct was just to go for it. I didn't think about, you know, repercussions. I just went for it. But that's my personality. I do believe that we need to stand up as citizens and do something and say something, but I will tell y'all something else that I do feel about this entire thing is after something like this happens, follow up with it because there's a lot more pieces to this story and a lot more stuff that happened even after the actual incident itself that I followed through with this story, and it all ties in to even today with them still not being caught. So don't let the ball just drop, you know, as a citizen. You see something, you say something, and you keep saying it until you're heard.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice because so many times people, you know, they'll see something and not get involved with it, or, you know, like you said, they don't follow up to see what happens. So, all right, I'm going to end it with this, and we certainly appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story. You're welcome to come on anytime you've got something interesting, you know, the next criminal you help catch or whatever. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up Doug Warner's video from the point where I think he's there when they actually catch the guy or whatever. And so if you want to, just keep watching the show or whatever, and we'll continue on. And of course, feel free to comment, and some of these folks that may have questions for you or whatever, maybe respond to their comments. Duke, you got anything else
Yeah,
to
I'll
add?
stay on.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
So, Rex, and this guy, after this event takes place, he's arrested. He goes to jail, and he hits and runs somebody, and then he's out again, right?
As best I can understand, and folks, that's why we're sharing this out. A, part of Bossier Parish is across the river, so, there's that little tie-in. But B, this is a lesson because the fact of the matter is Shreveport has a much worse murder rate per capita than Bossier does, but we have plenty of crime going on here too. As a matter of fact, in many respects, Shreveport's actually a safer city by the numbers per capita than Bossier. It's just that their murder rate is through the roof. And so, it's important to hear stories like this and see what's going on. So I'm going to hit play over here, Duke. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, let's see if I can get us some audio too.
22-year-old Elijah Williams wasn't out for a jog in the park when I ran into him at AC Steer Park in Shreveport. He was running from police.
And he started running this way, so I told my daughter, I said, I'm going to follow, see what he's going to do.
A Good Samaritan had given chase after seeing Williams take off running after crashing his car into another car just blocks away. Within moments, police arrived.
There's the
in
red
cuffs.
shoes and laces.
Case closed, right? Well, not exactly.
He was always really angry.
A year ago, Madison Wilder had called the police on Williams, she said multiple times. You see, Madison says Williams was a roommate in a house with her boyfriend, and when Williams' behavior had gotten downright scary,
He threatened to rape me in my sleep when my boyfriend was gone.
but since his name was on the lease, she says police told her there was little they could do without some sort of proof. So in April of last year, when she says Williams began acting threatening again, she tried to give police exactly what they asked for.
So I had brought my phone out to video him. Stupid idea, but he started fighting me for my phone.
Madison says as she leaned into Williams' passenger side window to ask his friend to call 911 for help, Williams attacked.
Before I even could think, my phone and my arm were in his hand. Like he, I guess, was trying to get my phone, but ended up grabbing my arm instead and did not let go. And I was like this the whole time.
So he was physically holding
Wow.
you in the car as he drove off.
Yeah.
She says this continued for blocks, with Williams swerving, trying to throw her to the ground. After finally stopping near Albert and Fern in Shreveport, she got away, and Williams drove off. The charges certainly seem fitting, 4 in all, including kidnapping, battery with a dangerous weapon, his car. But a closer look at court records show, in a plea deal this past January, the most serious of the charges were dropped, with Williams only pleading guilty to destroying her cell phone. He was hit with a $100 fine and a 90-day sentence suspended.
Did anybody from the DA's office call you to say the kidnapping charge was dropped,
No,
or the assault with the vehicle, basically?
no.
Madison says she had no idea Williams was even out of jail for what he had done to her. And just into the KSLA News 12 newsroom, just moments ago, we learned the Caddo Parish Coroner's Office has said a man shot has died. Till she saw that Elijah Williams was one of 2 people now wanted in connection to a murder just days ago.
And that just kind of shocked me because I was confused on why he was even out because nobody ever, reached out to me.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. And folks, y'all can go to KSLA's website and watch the rest of that and read the article. That's just amazing.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
It's disgusting.
it is.
Here you've got a guy with a history of violence. But I mean, look, some people will argue in debate says, look, we can't lock everybody up, and we got to have grace, and we got to have forgiveness, and all, and I'm going to talk about forgiveness in another part of this show tonight. But I mean, look, at some point, you got to ensure that repeat offenders or people who are violent, they get the message. And obviously, in this case, justice was not served. The message didn't get to that fellow Elijah there, and somebody is dead as a result of it. And the people whose judgment is supposed to be, the deciding factor on these things, I would argue they had poor judgment. And why did they have poor judgment? You
Well,
know,
yeah, and it gets worse because this girl reported, basically an attempted murder. He was dragging her along the street, physically holding her in the vehicle, and he gets off scot free. And according to the Caddo DA, suspended sentence and $100, which is what Doug Warner was reporting on, which caused a tit for tat between him and the DA's office on social media. And I hate to say it, but many times, we're pretty fortunate over here in Bossier. If you're outside the Good Old Boys Network, the DA's office and everybody in the court system does a good job about catching people and prosecuting them. We've got a few unsolved murders over here, but it just seems like it's I don't know, Keystone Cops over in Caddo Parish, and not explicitly the officers on the street, but Keystone Cops as far as the entire justice system, from catching them to going through the DA's office to the grand juries. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the solution is over there, but I know it's not cool.
well, and I mean, and this story is subject to repeat itself all across the country. I mean, if we're going to not have, discipline for criminal behavior, I mean, I don't know, and maybe you got to play devil's advocate. If the people in the judicial system aren't able to be held accountable, how can we expect the judicial system to hold people like this Elijah accountable? How can we expect that at all? I mean, isn't arguably maybe that's part of what the Second Amendment is about, is for the people to be able to, have accountability and defend themselves and on their own, but yet in Caddo now, just what we had reported earlier, they're wanting to take that away from the people over there as well. They can't. No, not only are we not going to defend you, you can't defend yourself.
That's right. It's we could spend, like I said, we could spend episodes and episodes talking about this. It's just crazy. And again, we appreciate Wade for sharing that information. As soon as he gets it uploaded to his page, we'll share it out on the Bossier Watch page for those of you that want to take a look at that, because, again, it might be across the river, but it's not but just a few hundred yards across that river. And so what goes on in Caddo and Shreveport does affect us over here. All right, and again, we appreciate Tiffany for coming on and sharing her side of the story and the car chase, and good that she was able to help get him apprehended and that she wasn't hurt in the process. And apparently nobody else was really hurt in the process either. Okay. So moving on, speaking of government and military and, well, now I guess we're going to bring school systems into the equation.
Well, they say education is the beginning and end of everything. And I don't know, some people say that, society today is the fault of our education system. I don't know if I would go there. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I got my gripes with public education, but they do some good things.
But look, here, and you've heard me say this over and over, and most of my friends have as well too, is, look, I blame the parents. All of us, whether you have kids in public education or not, all of us, we are reaping what we have sown for the last 20 to 30 years. So
I agree with that.
We're the ones that have elected these people and put them in office and allow these policies to come into place and just kind of turned a blind eye to it. At least most of us have. And that's the reason that we're in the situation that we're in. And honestly, I'm not really sure, what the fix is for all this, or if it even can be fixed. But all right, but sometimes people get their torches and pitchforks out and try to crucify when it's not actually necessary. Now look, here on this show, of course, as well as anybody, and those of you that have watched the show for a while and watch what we post, we're not afraid to take on anybody in government. We're really not after private individuals. It's when they're in office or when they're elected, or like in the case with First Church, if they have a definite political tie or rope, connected to them. But other than that, I don't care what the Caddo DA does when he goes home. I don't want anybody to picket his house. Go picket his office. or something like that, if you feel that the DA's office over there or the one over here is not doing right. I don't really care about them personally. But sometimes people, and I'm Mr. Social Media, but sometimes people take the ball and run with it without trying to dig in the facts. And Duke, I got to give you a lot of credit. You're really good about trying to dig into the facts. And, I've said it before, but you actually prepare a lot of the notes, if not most of the notes that we actually go by. And so we try to be as factual as possible. We'll report some rumors if we think it's based in fact. We're not going to report something. Folks, there's a lot of stuff that we've got shared with us that we haven't reported yet just because we can't see any light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, that it might be factual or not. So
Now, this story and this stuff, that you alluded to with, the military and the school board, or, this all originates kind of actually out of the same circle down in South Bossier and Parkway
South
High
Bossier.
School.
Yeah.
Ironically, I mean, you South Bossier folks, y'all got the Jimmy Davis Bridge. You had the original Amigos, but the Amigos band is busted up now. I mean, y'all got a lot going on down there. But Parkway High School, they had a graduation, right?
Yes, they did. And apparently it was an exciting graduation. Maybe we need to start going to graduation ceremonies and reporting all those. I don't know.
Now, what could go wrong with a graduation? I remember when I graduated and Jane Smith gave me my diploma, I was so excited, even after the fiasco at the then open Cypress District, at that time, but Robert Berry was nowhere around. But I remember my little way of rebelling or whatever. I wore cowboy boots. That
Oh,
was my
yeah.
thing.
Well, I graduated from Ruston High School in '89, and we were told our class was a little rebellious. Not too bad, but we were told that if we threw our caps up in the air, they were not going to allow us to get our official diplomas. So there was no throwing the caps in the air. As a matter of fact, let me back up. We were at I think it was our junior year, or was it our senior? No, it was our senior year pep rally. We were about to play Neville High School out of Monroe, and Ruston and Neville, the rivalry's been there forever and ever. Long story made really short, they got angry with us because we were the spray string confetti. Oh, they went livid over us using that string confetti in the pep rally. And they actually suspended one of my best friends, who was actually a really, really good guy in school and hardly ever acted up or anything like that. So the next pep rally, when they came around for the senior class to do their cheer, where they do the 2 bits, 4 bits, and all that, we literally all just sat there. And that made them even madder. And they came on loudspeaker, if y'all do that again, we're canceling all the pep rallies and all the football games for the year. And like we were going to the state championship. So anyway, my point is, it was a little different time than it is now. But I've got this post pulled up, and this is from James Lupton, posted May the 12th, so just a few days ago, about 5 days ago. And I'm going to read this for those of you that are listening, and for those of you that are here to listen to the Bossier Parish School Board, and let's see if they're anti-military, this is your time to text your friends and text your school board friends and tell them, hey, they're talking about y'all now. So James Lupton posts and says, my nephew Henry graduated today from Parkway High. I couldn't be more proud of him for his achievement. He decided to enlist in the Army and will ship to basic very soon. He was given his Army sash to wear at graduation. For this, the faculty at Parkway has decided not to give him his diploma during the ceremony. We have to pick it up tomorrow from the school. This is beyond angered many parents, students, other teachers, and above his family. So I'm going to scroll down for a second. There's a picture of him with his cap and gown and his U.S. Army sash. I'm going to scroll back up because Lupton did do an update. And his update is, the school has apologized to my nephew for withholding his diploma, and he now has it. They are now looking into adding a portion of the ceremony where the graduates who have decided on a military path to be recognized and have their recruiters present to place the sashes on them as part of the ceremony. So, looks like Parkway had some issues, but they did give him the diploma, and at least they're open to maybe adding something to the ceremony to be a little more conducive. So before we get into the rest of the story here, what's your opinion, Duke? And of course, I'll give mine too, on wearing of extra sashes. And there's even a story, I don't know if I'll share it or not, in North Carolina of a kid draping the Mexican flag over his cap and gown, over his gown.
No,
What's
wait a
your
minute.
yeah?
Wait a minute. The Mexican flag thing, that took
Yeah.
place right here at Parkway as well, too.
Oh, wait. Well, there was one in North Carolina as well, and that's right. I do remember seeing on social media that apparently, so some of you folks that are watching from Parkway in South Bossier, can you confirm that there was a Mexican flag incident at Parkway High School as well?
No, well, I can tell you, I confirmed that it did in fact happen, and because there was a little bit of discussion and angst from people saying, how is it that he was able to do that and get the diploma, and yet this cat here couldn't wear his, U.S. Army going in the military sash, and folks felt a little bit slighted. And you know what?
Wait a minute. So I only heard snippets of that story, so make sure that I'm hearing what you've been told correctly. So whoever the kid was that was wearing the Mexican flag, look, nothing against Mexico, but whoever the kid was wearing the Mexican flag was allowed to wear it, but this kid wasn't.
Whoa,
See,
hold up, Dano.
all right,
Now,
make
see
sure I'm
there.
right.
Now that's what the story on social media was posted, that
Okay.
he was allowed to. And what I can tell you is no, he wasn't allowed to.
Okay.
He did it just on his own. That the school didn't have anything to do with that. But here's where the rub comes in further. The the articulation that he was able to get his diploma and this kid here wasn't, that's not accurate either.
Okay.
And what I'm told is that that kid that put that Mexican flag thing on him, he didn't get his either. He had to wait, and his parents
Uh,
had to come to the school the next day, and same thing. They had to have a little meeting.
all right. So let me get on my soapbox and give my 2 cents about that. So if Parkway, and by extension the Bossier Parish School Board, if they're applying the standards equally, I'm fine with that. Look, again, my graduation, we were told straight up, you throw your caps, there's going to be repercussions. And we ended up throwing our caps anyway. But none of us considered wearing anything other than our cap and gowns, because we were told, don't come up here barefooted, none of that business. You're going to be respectful. You can cheer, but keep, and clap, but keep it to a minimum, or there'll be repercussions. We weren't technically out of school yet. And so we respected that part of the ceremony. And look, folks, the fact of the matter is, I'm all for free expression and all that, but there are rules no matter where you go. You go get a job, you're going to have rules. You're going to have probably a dress code, depending on the job. And so as long as Parkway and the Bossier Parish School Board, again, are applying the rules equally, I don't have a problem with that, as long as they're not making an exception for one person or the other and that sort of thing.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And to the point that the school system is being anti-military because they are refusing to allow a student who is, going to go into the military to wear a sash. No, I don't buy that as well too. I no, that's not right. That's not correct. Here's the thing. The very first question you had was what do I think about it? Well, what I think about it is all right, if you allow one, then here comes the next argument. Little Johnny's going to want to
Exactly.
wear this or that, and it's all you turn it into a big politics. It's not about um, graduation. It's now about something else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I would have just as soon at my graduation gone up there, in my fishing jersey and shorts and flip flops when I graduated. But hey, I knew they weren't going to let me do it, and they were strict about it. And of course, my parents weren't going to let me do it either. So, folks, there've got to be some rules. And I'm scrolling down the comments here from this same post, and then we're going to move on to the next situation. And of course, people are throwing out the racist accusations. And the guy said, he mentioned the guy or the kid, student with the Mexican flag over his shoulders and getting his, and people corrected him, and they're tagging KSLA and Doug Warner, and they're tagging Wade Lovelace and trying to blow it up on social media. And of course, arguably, we're doing the same, but we're trying to get what actually happened out there and try to inject at least, our 2 cents into the mix. And I
Yeah.
think you and I both agree we're on a lot of this type of stuff. We're pretty much old school on.
Yeah, I mean, and I take offense to, fine for the person to be proud of their heritage, that, they maybe are Hispanic, and, I'm going to assume that their descendants are from Mexico and they're proud of that. You know what? I get that, but I don't agree with that, you're here, you're an American, you're not a Mexican American, you're an American, period. We're all Americans.
I
And
agree.
to do that, to me, is thumbing your nose at everybody else. I mean, this what you are. You're creating more dissension, in my opinion. And uh, you know, good job to the school board on holding the line on that issue.
Yeah,
Drawing the line.
look, folks, if you want to make change in that department, go to the school board meetings. They're usually empty, or not very many people there unless they're giving away some awards, or they've got the head cheerleader up there. So go to the school board meetings. If you want the dress code to be changed at the graduation, that's the place to start, as well as talking to the principal of the school and all that sort of thing. Okay. So that brings us to the next situation. So I think we both agree, and folks, we want to hear your comments too as well. In that case, the Bossier Parish School Board and Parkway High School were not being anti-military. They were enforcing their dress code, period.
And actually, an example at the very same event was why they had the code in the first place, because where does it stop from there? I agree with the distinction that kids that are going in the military should be heralded, making that commitment. I respect it, love it. Yeah. I mean, and I think that there should be recruiters in school. I think that the military should be getting kids to go in the military. Yeah, I'm all about that, or what have you. But is it worth allowing everything else to come in? Because make the list. My goodness, everybody watching this show, Rex would show up if he could with a Bass Life sash, with the biggest sash with the biggest bass on it. That's what he'd be. And then you'd have the white perch people. The white perch people can't be outdone. They're going they're going to have Sac-A-Lay all over them.
Where does it stop?
It doesn't.
All right, so that moves us into the next example that we're going to illustrate here, or highlight, or whatever you want to call it, about the Bossier Parish School Board and the military. Are they anti-military? Are they against military families? So I'm going to go ahead and share this post out. And folks, in full disclosure, we're not sharing this post out to really give this person attention. It's because we need to report on it, and you got to understand this post to understand the TikTok video to understand what really happened. All right. So let me switch screens over here again. So this is a post, and for those of you that are just listening or on your phone and can't really see, I'm not going to read this entire post, but I'm going to kind of scan down it because we do have a video to watch that kind of goes through a lot of it. But anyway, this was MJ Boyce, hope I'm saying the name right, posted on May the 12th. Breaking. If you're a parent, what I'm about to tell you will both make you proud and piss you off, especially my fellow parents of hashtag, gotta have the hashtag in there, military kids. I would like you to meet Brianna. Brianna's a military kid who graduated high school today. She was number one in her class with the highest GPA in her class, but due to, and this is the important part, due to her status as a military-connected student, she was deemed ineligible to receive the title of valedictorian. Oh, my goodness. That's terrible, Duke.
How dare those horrible Bossier Parish school system people to be picking on these military people?
Yeah, that's really screwed up, right? Well, we need to keep reading. So you see, Brianna isn't your typical kid, Duke. Shoot, I wouldn't even say she's your typical human. Now, I'm going to pause for a second and get out of reading mode. This part of the post right here, this paragraph that we're reading is correct. This girl is not your typical kid. If you go Google Brianna Cooley, she is all over the place. She has got to be the most civic-minded, most helpful, intelligent kid that I've seen produced out of the school system in a long time. And she's only a junior, which is something key to remember. I mean, everybody agrees this girl is off the chart, gung-ho, help people, super smart, and all about civic duties and things like that. So, this second paragraph, the first paragraph and the second paragraph is pretty good. She's off the chain, amazing. She's an advocate for other military kids and dedicated her blood, sweat, and tears to countless clubs, sports, and organizations. Thousands of hours of volunteer work, countless awards. I mean, you'll spend hours Googling her name just looking at the stuff that she's won and done.
And
Anyway,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is
it is.
awesome. That's what we want out of our youth. We
Yes.
want civic engagement.
Okay. She is without a doubt the light that will be ruling our futures. That's a great quote. It's tugging at those emotional heartstrings. But did you know that Brianna's school district in Bossier, Louisiana has a private policy that is oddly not accessible to the public? Well, that's funny. We didn't have any trouble finding out the policy. But anyway, this policy states that valedictorians in their school system must be a fourth-year senior who started ninth grade as part of the graduating class. And that is true, folks. That is the policy right now of the Bossier Parish School Board, without a doubt. Okay? So just remember, that is true. But because Brianna is a military kid who has no control over military move schedules, which is not entirely correct, she was deemed ineligible. She has overwhelmingly the highest GPA in her class, which from all accounts that we can find is true, but that didn't matter at all. Yes, you read that correctly. She was penalized because her father serves our country, because her family serves our country, because her family is moving again. Hoorah! Folks, that's where it just jumped off the rails right there. Because that part of it, and look, I've been super critical of the Bossier Parish School Board. Not really Parkway in particular for any reason, but, you know, look, I'm not an overall fan of the Bossier Parish School Board because of the way, you know, they're top heavy and all that other stuff that I gripe about. But this right here is just stupid and ridiculous. If this person had done any homework at all, let's see where MJ is from. If she had done any homework at all, she would know that what she wrote was 90% BS. I mean, you got any better way to put it, Duke?
Well, I'm glad that you showed that. You know, National Military Affairs Association lives in Stafford, Virginia, not from here. I mean, this is a writer. And I mean, look, we get things wrong as well. But that right there, I got to tell you, it almost seems like MJ Boyce there, that it almost seems like that's a hit piece because that's not the case. I mean, and look, I've been critical of the Bossier Parish School Board. You have, you know, when you're at fault and you get called out. And was there a time that the Bossier Parish School Board was not friendly or to, you know, the base and base kids? Yeah, and I could give an example. But in this case right here, that's not the case. And what is being articulated here is false and wrong.
Well,
I'm
all right.
I'm not going to go too far. I'll let you go ahead.
All right, so let me continue on down here. So Brianna's a military kid, like a lot of military kids. She's attended 9 schools during her father's service, so she's used to moving. So because her father signed on the dotted line and volunteered to protect our country, because he decided to serve and protect all of us, and look, we thank him for his service, she isn't allowed to claim the title that she earned. But did she actually earn it? We're going to see. But it doesn't end there, folks. Brianna is that kid that doesn't look for recognition or validation. And that's true. But if you go check her mother's Facebook feed, her mother, and look, it's not Facebook stalking. Her mother posts this set to public. Her mother is very proud and absolutely looks for recognition and validation for her daughter, and that's great. Brianna is amazing, without a doubt. But she's the type of kid that's going to work to make sure this never happens to anyone ever again. All right, so first, we're supposed to join in celebrating Brianna. Agree 100%. Want you to blow my comments up with praise for Brianna. And tell her you see her. We do. She's all over the news, all over the internet. All right. Number 2, well, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you
All
first.
right. So number 2, we're supposed to please share her story, and that we're doing, folks, because we've got 126, bumping 130 people watching right now, and we'll be at a few thousand views in 24 hours. That's awesome. Even if you're not a parent, if you ever experienced a completely unfair, unjust, and BS life-changing moment, if you know that heart-wrenching feeling, share so people can hear and know this story, blah, 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 blah. Now, she says, and this is an important part too, I am not Brianna's mama. That would be my dear friend, Julie Scroggin Cooley. Remember that, folks. Okay, and then she shares, a picture of Brianna, good-looking young lady. Again, she is all over the place, civic-minded and all that. All right, so now let me switch our screens here for a second because I need to jump down and find a comment. So I'll give you a, little bit to ad-lib or whatever, but let me get to this comment because this is where it starts getting interesting. Then we'll go to the TikTok video.
Well, and I'm biting my tongue because I'm already wanting to just jump straight there, but I don't want to screw the story here up.
Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and let's do the TikTok video because based off of that post, another military mom, military spouse person released a TikTok video. So let's go ahead and let's listen to the TikTok video. So here we go.
So this is Brianna, and I came across something about her on Facebook today that I want to share on here. And I'm going to read some of it directly off the post that I saw. So Brianna is a military kid who graduated high school today, and she was #1 in her class with the highest GPA. Due to her status as a military-connected student, she was deemed ineligible to receive the title of valedictorian. Just some things about Brianna.
Now, I want to pause right there for a second. Note what she just said. Because of her military status, she was not eligible to receive. All right, here we go.
She's an advocate for other military kids and has dedicated her blood, sweat, and tears to countless clubs, sports, and organizations. She has thousands of hours of volunteer work, and she's been recognized at the local, state, and national level for all of her achievements. So, Brianna's school district in Bossier, Louisiana has a private policy that is oddly not accessible to the public, and it states that valedictorians in their school system must be a 4th-year senior. But because Brianna is a military kid and didn't move there until after 9th grade, she was...
Whoa. Did you hear that? When did she say she moved there?
Yeah, after 9th grade.
Okay. Important fact to remember. And look, I'm not sharing this directly from her TikTok page because I didn't want to give her, even a couple extra views. But this lady has thousands, tens or hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok. I don't know. I haven't looked at the current view rate on this video, but it's been seen a lot. And she just said Brianna didn't move there till the 9th grade. Okay, here we go.
So now the army of TikTokers now are after Bossier because Bossier is after military kids. We're wanting to step on military kids in Bossier, right? Okay.
Yep. All right, here we go.
Deemed ineligible. She has overwhelmingly the highest GPA in her class. She's a military kid, and like a lot of military kids, she has attended 9 schools during her father's service. And because of that, she's being penalized for it and not allowed to claim the title that she earned. So I believe she graduated from Parkway High School. It's in Bossier, Louisiana, but I know it has been said that Brianna is a kid that doesn't look for recognition or validation, but I still think it's really messed up. I always say that I chose this life. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I married Nick, knowing exactly what I was getting myself into. However, our children were born into this life and they had no choice in the life that they were born into. And so it really just hits it kind of hurts my heart a little bit that she's being penalized for something she had no control over. So I'm just going to put this on TikTok and let TikTok do its thing.
Okay, so she said no choice in the matter, right? It's all because her dad was in the military, right?
No, it's because she's a military kid.
Right. Yeah.
It's a military kid, and military kids specifically are being targeted.
Yeah. So, of course, but wait, there's more and the rest of the story. So let me get this Facebook comment put up here. Now, this is a comment to that MJ Boyce post that we just showed you. So let me get this pulled up here. All right, so Stephanie Pace says, no disrespect at all, but it states fourth year senior. Here's the thing, Brianna's not a senior. She's a junior, which is even more amazing because the girl's about to start college and she's graduating a year early, but she and her parents, her mother, chose that. And there's more to that here in a minute. Okay.
But Rex, and that brings another question and an issue. I mean, curriculums, formats, having these dual enrollment classes, these college classes that you can take early, it raises a question about comparing. Even if Brianna had moved from one school to another and she brought some credits from one school to another, I mean, is what people saying here, and I'm going to wrap this up just a second so you can move on. Are what we saying here is that kids can school shop, their grades from other schools to get valedictorian titles and things, or is that what we're advocating for? Maybe.
I'm not saying that the policy doesn't need to be reviewed and changed. Okay. Because if you're going to allow the credits from another school to apply if you move, and that's got to be the case. Otherwise, if you move in your sophomore, junior year, you'd have to go back to being a freshman. Okay. So,
or it could go the other way.
Right.
You could be the valedictorian at one school. You move to another, then that school says, "Oh no, we're not going to give you credit for what you did there because it doesn't meet our standards here, or it doesn't match up with the curriculum. So therefore, you're not going to be at the level that we are here." Are we wanting schools to start judging like that?
Well, not necessarily, no. And so, again, my stance is that the policy may need to be reviewed, but it doesn't need to be reviewed, and I'm Mr. Social Media, on Facebook or TikTok with the wrong information. If you're going to put a post out, or you're going to put a TikTok video out, or it doesn't matter where you put the video, what platform, if you're going to put it out there like that, at least get the facts right, or get them very, 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 very close to right. This isn't even close because, well, go ahead.
Hollywood Gordon, is that a real name? Hollywood Gordon. Yeah.
Gordon. 2 words.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a great point here on the other side of it, that if, with the type system that you have here and moving out, that it can adversely affect military kids. And you know what? I agree with her.
I agree too.
I totally agree with it.
But again, that policy can be changed, and the way to do that is attend those school board meetings, the ones where they're not giving out awards with the highly paid cheerleader sitting there squawking about it. Go to the regular meetings, get on the agenda, talk to your school board members, talk to the administration of the schools, whatever you got to do. And look, post on Facebook or TikTok about it, but don't get the story wrong to further comments, views, shares, and TikTok video watches. All right.
Yeah,
that's the problem I've got.
To bash this community as being anti-military, in which it's not. That's bull crap.
We have a huge base sitting over there that's the largest employer in the area, if not one of the largest in the state, if not the largest.
Yeah, and I can tell you, as one of the people in years past that fought, against some things that went on out there. Look, it's non-military people that do a lot of the fighting, but then for somebody to get social media posts to articulate something that's inaccurate, no, that there's more to this story. There's a whole lot more to this story.
And look, it's not like MJ Boyce accidentally found out about this, didn't do her homework. She knew about this. She's literally friends with Brianna's mother. All right. They're all in the military spouse group. And look, that's great. No problem with that. But it's not like this was an accidental thing. Okay. It's just not. Now, in full disclosure, I've certainly not talked to Brianna, don't know the girl, have not talked to her mother. I didn't reach out to her mother to get her side of it. I'm just telling you what my knee-jerk reaction is, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this. This was planned as a way to get mad about the issue and get it out there without the mother looking guilty. Because if you go look at the mom's feed, again, she's very proud of her daughter, and that's great. She constantly posts about Brianna's awards and accolades and all that. It's great. But at some point, it's like, wow, that's really a lot of posting.
Well,
and so that's the way I read this.
Well, let's the rest of the story. Let's get the rest of the story out here, because we have the benefit of knowing the rest of the story, but I don't know that everybody else does.
Right. All right. So I'm going to roll on through a couple of these comments here. Okay. So again, Stephanie Pace says, rules are rules. Sometimes they stink. Bossier schools have always supported military students and their families. Before accusations are thrown around, I do a little more research. MJ comes back and says, understood, you're right. They are rules, and they should really know that from the military. Rules are rules. However, thankfully, rules can and should be changed. Look, I agree with that, but this is not the way to do it with completely wrong information. Some rules are just old habits that people are afraid to change. From what I understand, this rule will change again soon. That's great, but not before our vast military community takes note. And look, we've even heard some rumors that like the base commander out at Barksdale is aware of this situation. Now, I don't have any confirmation of that, but that's been told to me by about 2 or 3 people now that arguably should know. All right. So anyway, it just goes on down, and so there's a whole back and forth thread on this.
And look, do I want to say that military kids don't face some hurdles coming into our system? Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely they do. But you know what? They're not the only ones. Kids that have been here their whole lives and aren't military have hurdles with the Bossier school system and the school system of Louisiana as a whole. You know, we articulate all the time. I would argue probably that a lot of the kids that go to schools outside of our state, you know, have a different experience with different curriculums. We've got our warts, and you know what? I mean, we're doing the best we can to fix them, but to go out and condemn us as being anti-military, that's just false. You know, that's not accurate.
That is exactly my point. Again, you know, I don't agree with the Bossier Parish School Board that much, but so Tiffany Masterson Robinson put in her comment, and she had a real good quote right here. She said, life is full of choices. Brianna's family made their choice because her father's time at Barksdale was over. They would have to live apart while she finished high school, move to another school to finish her senior year, wherever she was relocated, or graduate early. She was told at the beginning of the year she would be forfeiting all the things that seniors are eligible for upon deciding to have to graduate early. So I understand the challenges military families face. It's unfortunate she didn't get the award, but they did give her additional recognition. And some of you folks that were at the Parkway graduation, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she was allowed to walk ahead of the valedictorian at the graduation ceremony, from what I can understand. So it's not like they just completely dissed her because of all of her accolades and awards. But here's the facts, folks. They moved here in 2018. You can go back and look at her mom's Facebook feed, and she's got a post back there, I think it was January 2018, where she's talking about moving to Bossier. And that puts Brianna here in the 7th grade. Now, she may have come in the middle of the 7th grade or whatever it ended up being. I was just sent a picture with confirmation from the mother of one of her friends, okay, with this friend's, the mother's daughter, one of Brianna's friends, that confirms she was here in the 7th grade. So this isn't like they just picked on her because, you know, she moved here in her sophomore year in the 10th grade. she's been here since the 7th grade. She could have absolutely been valedictorian had she met all the qualifications and had her parents decided not to move in her junior year or at the end of her junior year. And she has also decided, my understanding, and confirmed by many people, that she is going to start college early. Again, great for her. This is not anything negative on the young lady. This is on the choices of the parents, and then, they go around the woodshed to get this out on social media.
That's true, and an opportunity to talk about education. I'm not going to miss it. But Rex, doesn't this go to some, more issues like, should education as a whole be standard across every state in the country, and it be cookie cutter and all? And should does one size fit all for education, or should learners be able to advance, or fall back according to their competency level? I mean,
well, that's a long debate and discussion, and
it is, but here's the follow-up. The follow-up is how do you recognize someone for an achievement without overlooking someone else for an achievement?
Well,
how do you do that?
Look, everybody doesn't get a participation trophy. I'm sorry, I don't fall into that camp.
But isn't that what we're saying here?
I'm not saying that.
Isn't this what this whole discussion is about? That everyone should get a participation trophy? Because, I mean, the first article that you shared was saying that we were screwing military kids, right?
Right.
Well, I'm dying to know who was the kid that actually got valedictorian.
Oh, wait a minute. The valedictorian was a military kid. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see. Who all is out there that would know that's watching? Ashley Lee, future Mayor Jeremy Gallman, some of you Parkway folks. Correct us if we're wrong. But the valedictorian was a military kid, and Brianna did get to walk in front of him.
Yeah. So, I'm wondering here, how can, you didn't see that in the article. They didn't say that in the TikTok video that, oh, by the way, while Bossier Parish School System is screwing the military kids, a military kid was the actual valedictorian. So what I have to say is that what we're saying here is that everybody should get a participation trophy. Everybody should get a trophy, right?
Well, look, I'm just going to be even more blunt about it. Here's who I'm calling out. I'm calling out her mama and her mama's friends. That's who I'm calling out, period, because they orchestrated this and, trying to burn the school board. And look, I'm all for burning the school board if they actually deserve it. I'm all for burning one of the high school, the administrators, if they actually deserve it. But here we have a set of rules that we may or may not 100% agree with, but those rules were there. It was very clear to them when they moved here, and as her education furthered and her civic activities, and she's winning all these awards and her GPA's through the roof. As a matter of fact, we know for a fact that members of the school board met with the parents, or at least met with the mother, and I'm assuming Brianna, and explained all this to them a year ago. So it's not like the school just threw it on them, a week before graduation.
And, is it fair that, okay, if you decide to graduate a year early, is it fair? No, it's not. But everybody wants the rules to be made up to favor them as you go along, but not set in stone.
Yeah. All right.
I don't get it.
So I'm adding a few comments as we go here. Hollywood Gordon says, I think this qualifies as more than a participation trophy. She deserved to be recognized and was recognized. So now I'm really confused as what the problem is. I think the problem is, again, my speculation, have not talked to the mother at all. My speculation is it wasn't quite enough for the mother and the mother's friends. And, they sat and stewed on it and ginned this up and turned it into a controversy. Light the bridge and walk away.
And yeah, and now as a result, they've cast our community and the Bossier Parish school system. Again, if they're wrong, look, I'll be standing right there with you to punch them in the jaw. But they're not wrong on this.
Yeah, and
They're not.
I want to add this comment too. Jessica Langley Maddox says, "I feel bad for Brianna." I agree 100% because we're sitting here talking about her, and she's not on the show, obviously, to defend herself, but she doesn't have anything to worry about. As far as I think, that girl's done nothing wrong. She's done a whole lot of right in her life and looks to be doing, going to do plenty of right in the future. So this is not about her at all. She's just the collateral damage from somebody that got butthurt, like her mother or her mother's friends.
Well, and what does this teach the kids? And in fact, all of them. I mean, this puts a stain on all of the kids down there. In fact, the other military kid that was the valedictorian. I mean,
right.
How does he feel? I mean, was he less deserving because he did it according to the policies that were set forth or how the game was supposed to be played? I mean, maybe he should have tried to graduate early to try to. I don't know. I mean, maybe we just need to give everybody trophies.
Yeah, just let them all be valedictorian. Then we don't have to worry about it. Give everybody A's and let them go. I mean, come on. Well, and Holly Cole says, I bet she's going to choose a college way far away from her mom. Au contraire, Holly. The town that they're moving to is very close to her college, so they can be near her. Again, hey, that's their daughter. I get it. Just don't be doing collateral damage to the school board and the schools around here because your daughter is going to start college early and y'all made the conscious decision, knowing the rules, to let her do that and encourage her. That's great, but don't try to flip it around the other way.
And does all of the rules and everything, and for a military kid, I mean, I wasn't a military kid, but I understand it. Does it suck? And do they, face, problems? Yeah, they do. I mean, but do we change everything, as we just to make one person happy or not at the expense of somebody else? And in this case, you would have disadvantaged another military kid. Is that what the military parents are saying? Disadvantage another military kid in favor of this military kid? I mean, how are we supposed to pick which one?
But let's flip this around a little bit. My dad worked for Halliburton most of the, my childhood. And so I went to several different schools, as we moved from location to location. Now, I was fortunate that I got to attend junior high and high school in Ruston. But it could have very easily happened to me, non-military, but the principle would be the same. What, if oil field workers come and go, now we're anti-oil field? Is that it too? Is that the parallel to this? All right, let me share one other screenshot. So as bad as the school board is, and they're anti-military, blah, blah, blah. This is Brianna's Facebook cover photo. This is her profile. She has a lot of public stuff, so it's not like I'm, stalking the young girl or whatever. Do you recognize anybody in that picture, specifically the guy on the left, our left?
Looks like Adam Bass, but I don't know.
Looks like Adam Bass. I'm pretty sure those guys on the right of him, or, well, to his left, to our right, would be military guys. And, well, that looks like Brianna right there. Yet the school board, Adam Bass is a school board member, happens to be, full disclosure, my school board member. He's now, president of the school board or whatever. Anyway, he's anti-military. The school board's anti-military, right? Come on, people.
I mean, yeah, this story, this was wrong. It wasn't done right. Again, have there been historical problems? Has some of the antics of the Bossier Parish School Board, has it made it to the halls of the Pentagon? You better believe it. Has it took a U.S. senator to intervene to patch things up in Bossier before? Yes, it has. And I think I've told that story before on this show and pointed it out. Right. But what I will tell you, and I was there during all that, but this right here, this wasn't right. Is there a debate to be had that maybe the policy should change? Yes. But attacking and condemning the Bossier School Board over this, no, that's wrong. Bossier's not anti-military, and I take offense to anybody making that inference that, Bossier is, because they're not.
Yeah,
They're
I
freaking
agree.
not.
And
Our
look,
community, we know that if the base is not here, this community rolls up overnight. I mean, we don't have the largest bomber base in the world for no reason. I
I,
mean, it's because of the years of community service to this thing and support. And you can't take that away and just say overnight with just some Facebook post that we're anti-military kid. That's BS.
yeah, and
I'm
look,
getting mad thinking about it.
part of the in full disclosure, I've never been in the military at all, but my grandfather retired from Barksdale. He was in the Air Force, retired out of the Air Force. That's part of the reason I'm actually here, all these years later. So this is not an anti-military show. We're not blaming the military at all. We're certainly not blaming Barksdale. I'm blaming the mama and her friends. And we're certainly not blaming Brianna as well. Now, Kara says the second guy on the right was the 307th commander.
Yeah, and that MJ Boyce, that was some writer with a national following. And MJ Boyce, if you're a writer worth your salt, contact us. We would love to hear
Sure. Your
you
side.
your side, and prove to us the anti-military kid Bossier,
Yeah.
point that you articulated.
Or
Back it up.
Or point out that you had no idea that any of this was going on social media, and this is a complete surprise to you as well. We welcome you on the show, or shoot us an email, BossierWatch@gmail.com or BossierWatch@protonmail.com. You're more than welcome to come on the show via phone call, via video call, or just shoot us an email and let's hear your side of the story. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe you didn't know anything about all this that was going on.
And he may have proof. And if he's got proof that in fact that is the case, and this isn't just one little thing, I mean, by all means, I'll get on the band with him and go after the Bossier Parish School Board, but I don't think I got to worry about that.
Yeah. And I'd like to say one more thing as we kind of get ready to move on to the next topic. That, look, if some of y'all don't agree with the policy of the school board and how the valedictorian is selected and the eligibility and all that, hey, reach out to us. Come on the show and let's discuss it. Again, we're not saying we 100% agree with the policy. We just don't agree with the drama and the controversy that's going on because of the well-known policy. All
Yeah,
right.
and to the kids that are going in the military, that are graduating and going in the military, and you got a sash to wear a sash. I mean, look, hat tip to those kids.
Yeah.
I mean, because to make a commitment to go into the military, especially this day and time, I got to tell you, you that if that to me arguably is a bigger decision than a kid going to college. I
Right.
mean, the way the
Look,
world is today, Lord knows what's fixing to happen tomorrow.
you're literally signing your life on the dotted line, potentially. So yeah, hats off to all of you. And look, for all you kids, most of you probably won't be watching, us old guys on Bossier Watch, but just ignore all this drama. This is like a Dixie Youth baseball game, where the kids out there and they just want to play ball and all the parents are fighting. So that's what this is.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah. All right. So, boy, we still got a lot more to talk about. What time is it? 8:45. And look, folks, we're still at 120 plus people watching across Facebook and YouTube. So we appreciate everybody watching and everybody commenting. So what do we want to talk about next?
Well, hey, I'll cover this Cypress Bridge thing real fast for everybody. So if any of you care about the Cypress Bridge and the Benton thing or what have you, got some good news for you. Good news is that the actual bridge portion, the decking, they got it poured and it's actually curing the whole
Wow.
thing. And
Wow.
they're the south approach, they've been hauling rock in all week. And so that implies that they're probably going to be getting on the stick on that as well soon. I had a friend, that kind of knows these things, that source out there on this project, that they're shooting for middle of August, 1st of July. potentially.
Really? Well, that's interesting. I mean, I thought you were going to come in and say, hey, they got done over the weekend, but if they get done this summer, that's actually would be a surprise to me.
Now, yeah, I mean, they're literally hauling the rock in there. So doing the rock base, you remember, I mean, it looks like I wanted to say this, I put it in the notes, look like we're correct again, Philip. But
Imagine
anyway,
that. All
inside
right.
joke.
Yeah, so the bridge is in progress, people, and hopefully they'll be done within the next few months. Maybe not on time per se, but they'll get it finished one way or the other. Maybe by the time we have flying cars, we'll have the bridge done. All right. So, I don't know. How much do we want to go into the Bossier City Council deal?
I really don't, be honest with you. They're a bunch
They're
of boring guys down there. I mean,
Yeah,
they
they
basically they rubber stamping Manchac, and it don't matter. Y'all want something done down there? You want to know the answer? You need to ask Manchac.
yeah, they write they
Ruttenbuck.
Ruttenbuck, they rubber stamp more money to Ruttenbuck and, well, the Manchac. And there was a little discussion, according to Bubba Don, just trust Bubba Don. He trusts Ruttenbuck explicitly, just trust Bubba Don that everything's going to be okay. That's
Okay,
basically
but
what they
you
said.
know what? I do need to make a correction there.
Okay.
Maybe not a correction, follow up. Now, you remember in the last show, we talked about how when they were the nanofiltration, how there was an application to LDH,
Yeah, Department of
down
Health.
there. And yeah, and we saw that the document had been updated the day after the last council meeting. And we asked the question, why is somebody putting in an application for a loan for nanofiltration? Well, got a councilman responded back to me and done a little digging and got some information on it. And in fact, they say that that application to that program was applied for even before this mayor in the previous administration. The council didn't do it, but the previous administration had done it.
Oh.
But that the documents and stuff have to be updated every now and then. It just so happens that that document was updated for that nanofiltration the day after the last council meeting.
But it is a legitimate loan
It's a
application request.
That's right.
Okay,
That
so
is
it is a
absolutely
legitimate $30 million request, right?
That's right.
You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Okay. All right. So, yeah, and look, there were a couple of good questions asked at the city council meeting. There were just a few people in attendance, so I'd encourage you to go watch that. I may put a couple of the highlights on the Bossier Watch page. So let's move into First Church. So, spoiler alert for anybody that's been waiting on an update for First Church. This is where, again, you text your friends, hey, they're about to start talking about Bossier First Church. And let's move into it. So you were playing court reporter today up in Benton, and I don't know what possessed you to do that, but good job. So you want to give us a summary, or how are we going to handle this?
Well, there's a lot, and look, they wouldn't let you have cameras. I mean, I thought this was something bad. I couldn't have cameras. All I could do was have a notepad and a pen, and I write horrible.
Old school.
Horrible. Yeah, and man, as fast as them attorneys are talking and all that stuff, I mean, my good, I'd have been better if I'd had a typewriter. But anyway, so I walk in, right, and I'm expecting the dirty looks from a lot of people, and I can't say I really got any dirty looks. Maybe, I mean, the judge kind of glanced back my way. He probably recognized me, and I don't know. He didn't cuss or nothing. But anyway, there was hardly an empty room in the building, Rex. I didn't even get to sit. I mean, there was no seats. I had to stand on the back row. I mean, it was full, full as a tick.
Now, were they all there for First Church, or other cases going on in the same courtroom? Or
there were a few other cases, and they tried to dispense with those few other cases before they kind of got to the main event, because I don't think any of the other things were really going to take a long time. So they were giving everybody the ability to get their business out and get out of the way, knowing that the First Church stuff was going to take the longest.
Okay.
So, and I gotta kind of, because we've talked about him on this show before, but I observed a lot of little incidental things. So you've had some of these cases unrelated to First Church going on, and you got attorneys coming in and out. But interestingly, one attorney comes, and I use the term, prancing into the room with his $1,000 suit and his sunglasses on, the middle of a case, and walks up to the front and proceed. I mean, it was like he was a politician running for political
Oh,
office.
you mean the preening peacock, Ron Machota himself?
Well,
And look,
that
I only say that, I don't know, Ron personally or anything like that, but I went up there to listen, or to be present in one of the hearings for the Cypress District, and Machota had an issue with that and did a little legal maneuvering shenanigans and had me stuck in a waiting room in case they needed to call somebody in, which means I didn't get to hear the thing going on. So anyway, the preening peacock.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I give him credit. He looked sharp. If I was attorney, I think I'd want to look,
Oh,
dapper
yeah.
like he was looking. But the dude walked in, he's shaking everybody's hands. I mean, it was almost like he was a damn movie star or something.
Did he have $100 bills in his hands as he was shaking? No,
I
I
don't,
didn't say
I
that.
didn't,
Sure, no.
I
Surely
didn't
he
see
wouldn't.
anything like that.
Okay.
I didn't see anything like that. No, but
Okay.
so anyway, the judge goes through all these different little cases and dispenses with all of them, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're recessing, and I'm like, "Holy crap! Did I miss something?" And and he's gone. So everybody's just sitting there talking and chewing the fat, and ultimately the bailiff comes in there and says, "Okay, guys, we got other courtrooms that are trying to conduct business, and y'all are all being so loud in here. You need to hold it down or
Mm.
disrupting the other courtroom." So everybody had to kind of calm it down a little bit. And I would guess maybe about an hour passed, and from the judge's chambers in the back, out comes the plaintiff, and defendant's attorneys, Allison Jones and Michael Lowe, I think that's his name. And they come out, they all gather their clients, march out into the hall, and I guess they have a little powwow. And
Mm-hmm.
shortly thereafter, the judge comes out of chambers and comes up to the bench, and then they all return into the courtroom, and game on.
Game
We're
on.
we're we're getting down to business.
All right,
Um,
so just to have it in the background, I pulled up a copy of the suit, and I guess this is the first amended petition or whatever the legal name for it is. So I've just kind of got this going in the background, folks. We're not going down all 23 pages of this, but I want to, for those of you that might be new and maybe don't know exactly what we're talking about, this is a lawsuit between the folks that you see listed here in this suit against First Baptist Church of Bossier. And basically, they're wanting to review the books unimpeded, I guess might be the best common way to put it. And their claim is that they have not been able to do so. We've reported on that and talked about it before. Again, mainly because First Church is tied politically. The politics are like an anchor tied around that church, in our opinion. So that's the reason for covering this, and there's a ton of interest in it. Okay, so with that backstory, Duke, continue on.
Yeah, so at the start, you had a little bit of dialogue going on, and I couldn't hear real good because the attorneys weren't speaking into the mic, and the judge wasn't as loud. You had Judge Smith was the judge, and if I understood the terms they were kind of discussing and haggling about, the prematory and right of action. They were having a little bit of a debate. I think that was the prematory, I think was the word. If we've got some lawyer on here who can say if that was the correct word or not, they were having some debate about that, and the judge clarified, and heard him clearly. He said that he would make a judgment this week on these issues. Um, and then there was some more discussion on no cause of action, and the judge, then clarifies, and I could hear him again clearly. He says, look, I'm only going to give you one ruling on this case, meaning not multiple rulings on, I guess, these different issues that they were kind of discussing before, they made their presentations. And he just clarified that, look, I'm not going to give you multiple rulings on multiple things. I'm going to give you one ruling on this case. He said, quote, only on the 901. So as I understand it, there's actually two different cases here, maybe two different lawsuits.
Okay. Yeah, and I may have the wrong one pulled up from what you were talking
Yeah,
about today, maybe.
but go ahead.
All right. Well, what I was going to say is, so I'll go under the assumption, which can be dangerous right now, that this suit is the one that the hearing was over today. But either way, I want to read just a couple of points of this suit. And of course, I'm, not speaking in the correct legal terminology. But anyway, this suit seeks to annul illicitly passed articles of incorporation. Now, that's pretty strong words. Illicitly passed articles of incorporation, and to hold the leadership of the nonprofit organization, another key point, First Baptist Church of Bossier, accountable to the congregation as a result of the leadership's lack of transparency, cooperation, and adherence to the law. The above members come on their own behalf and on behalf of many other church members who have serious concerns over the health, direction, and leadership of First Baptist Church of Bossier, First Church as we call it, due to Dr. Jerkovich, is de facto policy of improperly removing any who may disagree with him from the membership rolls of First Baptist Bossier. It is imprudent to name all members. Pretty strong accusations right there in that document.
Tracy Long Davis points out that's not from today.
Okay.
That one was newly filed today.
Oh, so now we got multiple lawsuits. Thank you for the clarification, Tracy. So now we have multiple lawsuits that we've got to keep up with. Wow.
And so this one we must be ahead of the curve on either way. But so
okay, breaking news.
As the proceedings went today, in the beginning, the attorneys both agreed, and certified about particular, records and the production of records and maybe I shouldn't say the records, but list of items in the suit and that were resolved. And they had this big, long list of numbers. I mean, and I think there was like, and I say big, huge, and long, there was like 34 items listed. Well, they started naming off all of the items that had been resolved that they didn't need to address, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 10, 12, blah, blah, blah. And they got that out of the way, and Allison Jones acknowledged right there in the beginning before they made their presentation. She said, the membership book, which I'm assuming is the rolls of all the members of First Church, being one of them, and that were made available, and it was just made available on this date, meaning that morning, the day of court, I guess it was one of the requests that they didn't get it until that day. And she clarified they didn't get it till that day. And then she goes on to say to date, other than that, what is mentioned had not been made available. So in the opening remarks, Allison Jones, representing the plaintiffs, and I'm going to read because I took these notes and I just jotted them down in here. So I'm going to read the notes, and I may have them transcribed a little wrong. So you guys can't hold me 100% to the accuracy. I did the best I could do. So she pointed out the fact in her opening remarks that they sought to review 34 items. And, she acknowledged that some disputes have been resolved, but not all, in which they kind of both agreed to that already. She points out and makes a big deal about the fact that nonprofits by law are mandated to be transparent in the state of Louisiana by statute. And she specifically was working off of the Louisiana Nonprofit Corporation Law. And she was pointing out, things about where it defines the disclosure requirements of nonprofits. She also delved into defining, and on this show, we've covered this even, and I think, not that we ain't never had Settle on, but John Settle was pointing out with Bossier City on the Shed Road crossing, on the what is the legal definition of an asset. And remember that dispute that the rail crossing was considered an asset of Bossier City. Technically, right. It was. Mm-hmm. So Bossier City still to this day, I don't think it was an ordinance. They made some resolution, to give that crossing up. Well, that was an asset. And I think John Settle even made the argument that by law, you can't do that. You've got to have an ordinance and a vote to do it. Right. And if I recall correctly, and I may be wrong, they never did that. Well, she was making the point of what the legal definition of an asset. It's a property of any kind. You know, phones, text messages, documents, a bill, a receipt, invoice,
Yeah.
you name it. A computer, a server,
Yeah.
fire alarm, you name it.
Yeah.
Well, she goes on to point out, and I started writing the examples and the numbers in it, and it got kind of voluminous. Item 16, item 26, item 29, item 30. If you're looking in the suits, where each one of those items and defined how they were assets, liabilities, disbursements, and receipts, and quantified them all as being assets. She jumped out there a little further, and she pointed out a major point, that they had not requested names. Now, this is important for when I get to the defendant's attorney and one of the points that he makes. She points out that they had not requested the names of who made donations, to the church, but they had only requested the denominations, of donations to the church since 2013. Well, that would have been since 2013, since Jerkovich came around, to First Church. So she made that point in her opening statement. She also goes on to,
let me pause you right there. You said that they requested the denominations of the donations. So you're talking about the denominations as in 5, 10, 20, 100?
yeah,
Checks.
they just wanted to know the
Okay.
monetary number. I use the word denomination.
Okay.
They wanted to know the number that was actually donated. So
Right.
if you gave $100, they don't want to know your name and who gave
Right.
it. They just want to know that a $100 donation was made.
Yeah, and look,
And
folks, most of you probably already know, but most churches really try to protect the list of who's donating what, because that information, you talk about a drama fest in a church. If, Betty Sue's over here donating $100 and Billy Bob donates 1,000, and that can get complicated. So,
it could get horrible.
yeah.
She goes on to that all salaries and payroll, banking and investment assets, insurance policies, credit card statements, and contractual obligations and loan documents, that they wanted to see all of that. Now, I didn't understand, that she was making the statement that they wanted to see all of that, and the defense attorney makes it seem like they had seen all of that here in just a little while when I kind of read what he said from the notes that I wrote down. So I was a little confused on that one. And then she goes on and says, this quote here, I wrote it down. It was said that it is alleged that some documents have been produced, but contend they had not. I didn't write down which attorney said that, but it was one of the two attorneys. It was either Allison Jones or the defense attorney, but I would assume that it was Allison Jones because the defense attorney had not spoke yet. But then in my notes, I have wrote down Michael Lowe steps to the plate. And right out of the gate, I mean, I caught some fireworks. And I would think that if I was one of the plaintiffs, which, if my understanding is correctly, the majority are, deacons or former deacons of First Bossier. A lot of them guys, and I know some of them names, have been around First Church for a long time.
Right.
So right out of the gate, Michael Lowe starts firing shots, and he starts off explaining that the plaintiff's opening remarks, he took issue with it, because Allison Jones, in one of the first things she said in her opening remarks, she said that my clients are sad that they're having to do this, and they're sad that they're having to be here. Well, Michael Lowe, on his opening, first thing out of his mouth is, he said, I understand that the plaintiffs say that they're sad that they're here and they didn't want to be here. He said, well, basically he contended that he doesn't think that's right. He thinks they're exactly where they want to be.
Well,
They,
I, yeah, that's debatable, but obviously
well,
they had to, they felt they had to file the lawsuit, and that's going to end them up in court. There's, no way around that
yeah,
unless they work something out. And obviously, Brad is not going to give up the information that they're looking for willingly. So, got to be in court.
that's right. Now, Rex, this next part, now, everybody watching and yourself, I want you to hold on to the edge of your seats. I don't want you to fall out. And because this one's, look, I wrote this down. Now, you guys, I admit, I don't have the best of hearing. I'm standing in the back of the room, and I wrote this down, and I'm pretty sure it was the attorney. We're going to have to get the transcript to confirm that this was actually he said it. But after he finished that sentence, talking about they're exactly where they want to be, in there he had a line, and I heard they have lied for the past year.
Wait, they've lied from the past year?
For the past
the past year. So the plaintiffs, which are the church members who are suing the church, have lied according to the attorney, is what you heard.
That's what I heard.
Okay,
Now
that's interesting.
I could be wrong.
Sure.
He was the only one talking. There wasn't nobody else talking in the room. I was pretty sure that was what I heard, and I really want to see the transcript to see if I heard that right.
Right.
So I'm putting that out there.
I got
Anyway,
you.
so and I'm not saying it's 100%, but I heard that.
Right, I got you. And,
So
and by the way, while you're scanning through your notes real quick, I did go back in our show files, and this is the suit filed on March the 10th. And yeah, let me make sure the suit numbers are. That was the 166929. Okay. So this is the one filed back on March the 10th. I'm just going to kind of have it on the background here as you're proceeding on.
Yeah, and if anybody else was there that heard that as well too, confirm that you heard it or that's not what you heard. I mean, because it kind of shocked me, and I wrote it down when I heard it. So anyway, he goes on, and he's saying, my clients have made offer after offer, for inspection of all the documents with the church, and to date, not one person ever showed up to review.
Now that's counter to some comments that we've had on this show as we've covered this. While we were talking about it, that's contrary to what members have claimed directly to us.
Yeah. Now I'm pretty sure he was talking about the plaintiffs, and
Right.
which immediately when he said that, I was thinking, okay, well, based off of our previous show, why did he not say that none of them showed because they didn't agree to sign non-disclosure agreements, or that
Right.
his clients had said, yeah, you can come see anything you want to do, but you got to
Well,
sign non-disclosure agreements.
it's that old
And you
lawyer
can't.
hat trick deal. You just don't tell all the truth.
So he didn't say that. So I guess it's disputable as to whether or not the plaintiffs, all the former deacons, were faced with having to sign a non-disclosure or not. So he went on and he said, the plaintiffs have been provided approximately 16,000 documents for review. Now, I want you to think about that.
That's a lot of documents.
16,000 documents.
I wonder if they count every little receipt for popcorn and a Coke that somebody at the church spends.
We're going to get to that. It's funny
Okay.
you would say that. In fact, it's right here in the notes in the very next thing. He went on to say that every penny had been accounted for. He said he could tell you exactly in 2013 how much was spent at AutoZone and Chick-fil-A.
Oh, Well, they may not have gotten popcorn, but they got some chicken and maybe a Coke or sweet tea at Chick-fil-A.
Maybe so. Tracy Long Davis was there. I wonder, did Tracy hear that comment that I heard?
Well, and let's go back down memory lane for just a second because I didn't go back and study all the notes and the emails and watch our previous shows before tonight, and we've done a lot of shows. So I don't remember anybody necessarily accusing or throwing out the accusation, at least church members, that money had been spent, I guess for lack of a better term, illicitly or whatever, just that they couldn't get an accounting to see why stuff was spent. Does that sound correct? I don't remember anybody saying that in the comments, but somebody could have.
Yeah. Tracy Long Davis says I didn't, but it was mumbling. She
Right.
couldn't. Yeah, it was some bad audio in there. They could take a lesson from some other folks in there. But anyway, that lawyer, speaking to the point that you're talking about, he reemphasized that outside accounting firms had went through all of the accounting and they had accounted, with all of the pennies, every dollar, everything. And in a minute, Allison Jones in a follow-up responded to that, and she had a really good response back. And it made a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And an additional point I would point out, I mean, look, when you do some of these audits, especially these big audits and these auditing firms, and if we've got any CPAs or auditors on here, tell me, do you account for every receipt in general audits that you do for companies and things like this? Do you do that, or is this a risk limiting audit like we have with elections, where we only audit 1% of everything, and then we use that to say, oh, well, if 1% is right, everything else is right?
Good question.
That was what I was thinking. So anyway, he goes on to say a little bit more fire and brimstone. He says what the plaintiffs really want is their own audit. That's what they really want, and that they want their own discovery process to find anything they can. And I'm pretty sure that he went on to say against the pastor. And he said, and because I wrote it down, he said they want to audit against what is entered accurately. They want to audit against what is accurately entered.
Yeah, they want to make sure everything is, on the up and up. No typos, no mistakes, I guess.
Gene Ellender says, it's that document you have. You're already ahead of me.
Yeah, there's a
my
reason.
Screen is...
There's a reason they want to see the finances. Well, I'm trying to scan through this and watch the comments too, and listen to you at the same time. So.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to read because my screen is doing some shaking stuff again. But now the defense attorney makes another comment that was striking. He says, to date, they have never charged a purpose. Now,
well,
now think about that. To date, they, being the plaintiffs, all the former deacons and everybody, have never charged a purpose for why they're suing and why they want to see all the assets, books, numbers, pennies, everything of the church.
Look, here's an easy answer to that. Maybe it's just because they want to see it. They're members of the church. They're part of the church body. And not just that, the church is a 501c3.
That's right. They've up to that point had a right, I think, to see it at any time that they wanted to see it. But moving along, let me get through him real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speed up a little bit because there's a lot here. Item number 20, he was at item number 26. I guess he was going down his list, and he was talking about donations. And he said there is no qualification, and he was talking about in statute for this request, that, and he says, the who gives what is strictly confidential. Well, now you remember a while ago, Allison Jones stipulated in her opening comments that they had not requested any identification, names, nothing. All they wanted was the numbers.
The numbers.
That's what they
If
wanted
the
to know.
numbers match, that's all they're worried about, because guess what? In the financials, it's just the total amounts anyway. There are, in the actual financials, there are no names. That's just in the membership list, whatever software they're using, or if they were doing it on paper at one time.
Now, what he did say was, and this was another one. It was, and I didn't get the sentence correctly, I know for sure, but he was speaking to the request of copies of servers, emails, and he starts saying the statute says records. And what he was trying to infer was that they had provided what the law stipulates as a record. And I think what he was trying to say was paper documentation, and that copies of emails, servers, those things don't fall into the law as what is, defined as a record or an asset that they have to produce or show. Moving along to item 30, that was in regards to confidentiality agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there were, and the numbers may not be right, but apparently they had requested copies of all the confidentiality agreements. And I hate to say that he kind of laughed about it, but I think there was a little chuckle about, well, we're not turning that over because it's a confidential agreement. And which
Okay, well, it's not confidential if the judge says it's not anymore.
Well, that's right, but is it confidential if it's not, if it's in violation of the law?
Right.
No.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not.
That's point number one. Yeah.
So apparently they had also asked for records pertaining to, personnel actions, things with former employees, people about being dismissed, people, that quit, whatever reason they wanted, and of course they were refusing to give any of that up.
Right.
They, and I can somewhat see that a little bit, but given that, part of the controversy is you had a house cleaning of people that had been there a long time, and a lot of people were pushed and ran off. And I know that that's one of the claims. I mean, maybe this does have to, be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
He called the whole lawsuit basically a fishing expedition from people who tried to rally the membership against the pastor and failed.
Well, I would
Got
agree
that
with
one right.
I would agree with most of that, except the have failed part, because they haven't failed yet.
Well, and he says that their goal now, all of the people in this suit and all the, I guess the non-First Church folks of today, that they seek to hold the church hostage, that's their goal.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't see them out there locking the doors to keep anybody in or out, for that matter. But anyway. Okay.
Right. Well, you want me to roll on? I got more.
Oh, I'm listening to you, watching the comments, and scanning down through the amended petition for today. So yeah, keep going till you run out of something to drink and your mouth gets dry.
Now, Gene Ellender, I mean, he makes a good point right there, and it's actually a point that Allison Jones makes here in just a second. Go ahead and read that one.
Okay, so Gene Ellender says it's more than the budget, because the budget is one thing, but where money actually went is another matter entirely. Very good point.
So the defense gave his opening, and Allison Jones asked for a brief moment, to respond. And she says, 3 days to review 16,000 records.
Oh, 3 days. They better get to reviewing quickly.
And well, I think, it's what she would. I mean, what kind of time is that? But I think she is a high achiever. So, and she points out, motive is irrelevant. And
yeah, I agree. Like I said, just because they want to, that's why.
I mean, he pointed out, to date they've listed no purpose, and she points out, look, the motive is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. If we want to see the records, we can see the records.
Mhm.
And she says, furthermore, it's true. We can see what was charged. This goes to Gene Ellender's point. Yeah, we can see what was charged. We can see, basically, she was saying we can see that there was a charge to AutoZone, and we can see there was a charge to Chick-fil-A, but we can't see what for. What was the reason for the charge? Why? That's, and I thought that was pretty to the point, and it goes to the point. So, could there be a reason that there was a charge at AutoZone that was inappropriate? Yeah. Could there be one at Chick-fil-A? Yeah. I mean, does the church body have the ability to oversee those charges and or any other parts of the nonprofit corporation in the church? I think so. Yeah. Do you want people to micromanage? But obviously, everybody there has a reason to want to look at all of this, right?
Yeah, and again, as church members, you know, I guess the simple analogy would be they're like owners of the company or shareholders of a company. As members of the church, they should have the right to see it. And any church that doesn't want to allow a member to see it, there's a problem.
Yeah. So she goes on to say, as to having all records provided, we just received some records even just today and haven't been able to review. And she says, and I want to address something else. Now, this one's, I hope y'all are sitting down. Of the 16,000 documents claimed to be presented, 5,000 of them are duplicates.
So they gave them 16,000 documents 3 days ago, basically, of which 5,000 are duplicates, and still gave them some today or whenever, right before this hearing or whatever. And the defendants, First Church, doesn't see a problem with that. Lawyers, gotta love them.
I don't know. So that was the end of the opening statements. So they were, the plaintiff and the defendant were done. And so then the judge has got a turn to make some comments. Now, I hope you're ready for this. You're not going to be surprised. Maybe a lot of our viewers will be surprised, but the judge, he steps up to the plate and he says, I've got to make a disclosure.
Why did he make the disclosure? Well, let's see what the disclosure is. Okay.
Well, he said he needed to take a moment and make a disclosure that, he doesn't get in trouble for disclosures. He gets in trouble for non-disclosures. And the disclosure that he needed to make was that his brother attends First Church.
Wait a minute. So the suit was filed several months ago. I don't know when it got, on this particular judge's docket. Surely before this morning. Maybe not. I don't know. And he felt the need after their opening statements to disclose this? At least he did. Hey, that's a first for the Good Old Boy Network.
But look, he said he didn't see it as being a conflict and that he could rule fairly, that's what he said. And I guess
maybe he attends a Methodist church, so
well,
it's a joke, people, for any of the Methodists watching. I have nothing against Methodists.
I'm not going to go there, but both attorneys had the opportunity to object, and you know what? Neither one of them did. Neither one of them presented an objection.
Well, okay. They could have objected. Terry Norris says, so why didn't he recuse himself? Maybe, I'm sure if he attended First Church, then, yeah, that he would have had to have recused himself. But maybe because it's, one family member removed, he didn't feel the need to. I don't know.
Well, y'all think about this. Think about the judge's brother. Think about him having to go to church.
Oh, yeah. And what
I
he's
mean,
going to hear from other members about his brother being the judge in the case.
yeah, how does
Hmm.
that work for him? I mean, that sucks.
Yeah, and maybe, brothers being brothers, he remembers something from their childhood that might be embarrassing to the judge. Again, I know nothing about any of that. I'm just saying it's, it's a what, hey, if you don't rule this way, I'm going to tell everybody that when we were kids, you did so and so. I don't think that would happen. I don't know the judge nor his brother, but I'm just saying potential's there.
But I gotta tell you something. Um, I gotta tell you something. Overall, this thing, and Gene Ellender, I'm glad you're watching. Um, this thing, it was a glaringly obvious thing to me, kind of watching this thing today, sitting in the back on the sideline, kind of watching it. It kind of jumped out at me um, that this ain't about the church. It ain't about the church. You know what it's about?
Oh, go ahead.
Money and power.
Bingo. That's usually what it's about.
It's about money and power.
Yeah.
I can't lie. That was my observation.
Well, and look, I'm no biblical scholar by any stretch of the imagination, but I always go back to when Jesus uh, whipped the money changers because of what they were doing to the church. And think about that for a second. The verse is Jesus fashioned his own whip. That means he sat down and premeditatively made a weapon to beat their ass and overturn the tables while he was at it. To me, this is eerily similar. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not about the church and who needs to lead the church. It's about power and refusal to give up that power to the members who are also leaders of the church. Or share that power. Let me rephrase that. I don't know.
Look, we know that there's people that ran off from up there who were told they lacked discernment.
Mm.
Anybody know anybody that went there that was told that and were pushed out?
Mm.
I mean, look, it almost seems like, I can break this down for you, being the fishing guy that you are. It almost seems like this is a fishing tournament.
Yeah.
Church has become a fishing tournament, and either you're providing live bait or you're providing artificial bait. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Who's the fisherman here?
Well, and look, I'm not anti big churches either. I actually like to follow a lot of the larger churches, but again, it's that old power corrupts deal. And just the appearance of what's going on is there's something going on there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And in the case of First Church, literally there was smoke and fire, and it's still going on.
But look, not just, the person that was run off for lacking discernment. How many other people have been hurt by not just, by the whole thing? How the whole thing up there has went, the way, how many people have been hurt, and how many people have gotten apologies? How many people?
No, the apologies would have to flow the other way. That's part of the other problem. And look, I don't know Brad from Adam other than the fact that he's pastor of First Church. Okay, but I can just tell you from looking into this and having been involved with other churches in the past, what's going on here. I want to pull up a comment and then I'll let you finish. First, Tracy Long Davis says, remember, he isn't going anywhere until Jesus returns. They may have Mummy Brad up there. What if Jesus doesn't return for the next 1,000 years? Jacob Thomas says, why didn't First Bossier know he did the same thing in Lubbock? We've shared this before, but I'm telling you from somebody that was directly involved in the decisions or very close to the decisions, they did know about it.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting here, I'm not pointing one finger at any one person and I'm just thinking about all the people over the year and years that have been hurt by the activities that have went on at First Church with the artificial bait or the live bait, whichever one that it is. I mean, how many people have apologized to all those people that
Yeah.
have been hurt?
Well, look, here's future Mayor
When
Jeremy Gallman. And again, thanks for watching the whole time, Jeremy. He says, our complete Sunday school class was destroyed by him dismissing our class.
but I'm not everybody keeps focusing on him.
Right.
I'm not talking about just him because him alone was not able to send this thing down the path that it went.
You're right. It takes a team.
It takes a team. There's no way. And that team, it's a lot of people watching us right now. We're on that team. Now they're not on that team. You know, I'm wondering how many people, how many people have thought about Matthew 18? I mean, look, I got to tell you, forgiveness and all that stuff, it's something that I struggle with all the time. I mean, I wouldn't be right here on this show if it wasn't for a wrong that somebody did to me when I was a fireman.
Right.
Wouldn't be here on this political path talking about politics.
Yeah.
But I can't help but believe this whole thing at First Bossier couldn't have been resolved without, forgiveness and, some folks kind of, I don't know, going at it a different direction. And I think a lot of people have made a lot of bad decisions down there.
I agree with you. Look, we may be completely wrong. Maybe Brad and the leadership that surrounded him, maybe they have offered up every document that has been requested. We'll see probably by the end of this suit. Maybe that's the case, but there's too many people saying otherwise. And what usually happens in church situations like this is when the pastor is in trouble, there's going to be a core group of people that will assume leadership positions and they will surround the pastor. Okay? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, especially if a pastor is being falsely accused. But when they do that and the pastor builds up this wall, and then anybody that tries to come through the wall, he shoves them out, there's something wrong with that, people. I mean, I know most of y'all that are watching probably agree with that to some extent. And maybe some of you watching right now are on Brad's side in all this, and that's fine too. Comment away and let us know where we're wrong. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for a minute. Something ain't right.
Yeah, something ain't right. And I think it all goes back to, we let artificial bait into the church when we should have been using live bait.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
All right. Now, Wade Thomas says you guys are so off base with observations on this. And look, Wade, I just got through saying it. Literally, we may be off base with this, but we've got way more information that has been shared with us than we've shared in any of these episodes. And this information is shared from some very influential people around this town who happen to have a high degree of credibility, especially when they're all saying the same thing for the most part. And anyway, hey, when your church is tied as closely to politics and to politicians as that church is, not just that the politicians are members there, it goes far beyond that. That's where it piques our interest. Otherwise, wouldn't care what happens to First Bossier. Would wish them the best, the whole church.
Yep.
All right.
Let the light shine on everything, and if we need to, crush the bad salt under our shoes, let's do that too.
I agree 100%. Well, we're at 2 hours and 35 minutes. We've got 145 people watching. We were at over 150 just a little bit ago. So we appreciate everybody that's been watching this long. Duke, do you have anything else to share from today, or is that pretty much a...
Hey, next show. Is it next show that we got Kyle Ardoin coming on?
I believe it is. I'll have to double check the calendar. I'll try to post an event deal, several days in advance to let everybody know, but I believe that is correct.
Yeah, look, Kyle Ardoin is going to come on, and we are going to have an in-depth discussion on, where kind of we're at right now on election, voting machines and election integrity in the state of Louisiana. A lot of folks have that's fell off their radar. They're paying attention to it, on the national level, but kind of Louisiana is at the tip of the spear on moving forward with a new process. And, you've had an election commission. They've been having meetings. They've had experts from across the country come in, and Ardoin is going to come on the show, and we're going to get to ask him some questions. We'll take questions from all of you guys about the process moving forward. And I think it's going to be good. I kind of think we're actually heading in the right direction. I have a few reservations, and we're going to ask him about it, but I think everybody might end up being satisfied.
Good. And so, yeah, we would ask all of y'all to make sure and like and follow, on Facebook. You can also go search Bossier Watch, one word, on YouTube. You can find our YouTube channel if you want to watch that way. That way it's a little bit more anonymously. We don't care how you watch. As long as you watch, feel free to send us information, BossierWatch@protonmail.com. Make a free Proton Mail account. If you want to keep it anonymous, don't put any identifying information, and feel free to share information or just come on and make comments. We really, having good commentary during the show helps our show flow a little better and engages good dialogue. So we appreciate all the comments, even if you don't agree with us.
Now, I would point out, Rex, that there at one moment we had almost 158 people watching total, but I saw on Facebook there was only about 80 people watching. So we
had some YouTube folks watching, and
we had almost as many people outside of Facebook watching.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll put up this last comment as we're closing out. Jimmy Richardson says, watching from YouTube, he says, my son-in-law was the youth director, got fired, and Brad replaced him with his son, and that's when stuff exploded. And that's coming in from a YouTube comment that Facebook folks can't see those, but again, if they're relevant and pertinent to our conversation, I'm glad to share them on the screen. So,
all right, thanks everybody for watching, and Rex and all of our viewers, y'all have a good night. Thank you again.
We are out of here. I'm hitting the finish button now. Good night, everybody.